Hello and welcome to another edition of Conversations of the Heart. As always, it is your boy T Tail. We have a very special guest here today, Dr. Lori M. Nixon Bethea. She, man, is the owner of International Hearts Counseling Services. Man, she does so many amazing things. She's going to tell you about all the alphabets behind her name because it is a lot. And if you see it right down here, it's going to be right here, but she'll tell you what they are because you might be a little confused because she is so accomplished. She is amazing. She has experience working in the field of counseling for over 17 years, working with numerous populations, including the chronically ill, youth in the foster care system, individuals in crisis, and providing individual and group counseling to children, adults, couples, and families in New Jersey and Florida. She has her bachelor's degree in psychology, and she also has her master's degree in psychology, and she also received her PhD in counseling with a specialization in marital and family counseling. Welcome to the show. She has done the show 3 years ago, and she is back today. So, Dr. Lori, thank you for coming back on the show. Thank you for being here with me. And for the people who don't know, because the show has grown since 2022. So for the people who don't know who you are, please give them a little bit about yourself and some of the things that you've accomplished here.
Thank you, Terrence. Oh, that was a wonderful introduction. So yes, I'm Dr. Lori. Everyone calls me Dr. Lori. Nixon Bethea. I've been doing everything that Terrence just explained. I'm also an assistant professor of counseling, a clinical mental health counseling at Georgia Newport University in Lakewood, New Jersey. I've been teaching there for about 8 years. I'm one of the core faculty members. So when I'm not teaching, I'm practicing, and when I'm not practicing, I'm teaching. And that's just a wonderful combination for me because being able to share the work that I do on a regular basis with my students, it just gives them that firsthand insight. Basically, the fact that their professor actually does what they're going to do in the future.
Mm,
I think it's exciting for them to hear different accounts of my experiences working in the field over these years.
mm.
I have a specialization, something new from the last time we met. I
Yes.
specialize actually and treating ballet dancers. That's a new specialization because that's one of my loves. I
Mm.
danced ballet since the age of 3, and one of my goals was to become professional. But my parents kind of detoured that dream and said, "You better find something that is going to be prosperous for you and something where you don't have to worry about how you're going to make it or how
Mm.
you're going to support yourself." So that's kind of how I got into the idea that I wanted to be a therapist back when I was in high school. But
Wow.
trying to figure out a way to merge my two loves, working with people, helping people as a counselor, as well as helping dancers because I still dance today. I love ballet. And so being able to do the two has been such a dream of mine because for the longest time, I didn't know how can I, utilize this passion that I have for dance? What am I going to do with it? And so
Right.
becoming a specialist to work with ballet dancers specifically because they have a lot of unique needs and issues that they face. So that's
Wow.
something I'm trying to get out there and address.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
It's very unique. It's amazing and not surprising. Something else to add. That's another thing to add up under your belt. And man, the one thing, man, as far as ballet dancers, oh man, it's hard.
Yeah. Yes.
I've always been into like being from New York, like the b-boys,
Yeah.
just the street dancing,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You're right, pop lockers, and and all of those things. So I've always just loved dance and the
Yes.
dances and stuff like that. And what I always said was about ballet is it looks like it hurt. It looks like it hurts.
Yes.
The movements, just the great. Well, one, it's graceful, but it
Yes.
looks like it just hurts. And even now in my age now, I'm like that might be a hospital bill for me if I even attempt even trying to get on my toes. I think at
Yes.
that point, I
Yes.
think it's a good thing I have insurance because I
Right.
wouldn't make it. Like
Exactly.
you have to have a lot of strength
Yes.
and talent to even be a ballet dancer. Because I've seen a couple of shows in New York, ballet
Yes.
shows and things, um, and I was like, yo, I don't even know how.
Absolutely. It's a lot.
They do what they do,
Absolutely
right?
a lot. And it's strenuous, and that's where the physical piece, but also the performance piece to it can really play on their minds,
Mm,
really affect them mentally if it's not addressed. So yeah,
hmm
it's a tough industry for so many different reasons, physically, mentally, emotionally. But that's where I think they need support. But sometimes they're forgotten. We think
mm,
about being graceful and beautiful and performing so wonderfully, but
yeah.
we really tap into what's going on with them internally. And so
Mm.
that's what I'm trying to do.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, one of the things I want to talk about today, right, is now there's a lot of conversation about chronic illness,
Mhm.
chronic inflammation, all of those things in like the medical world and things like that, right? But I want to talk about um, living, right, with kind of chronic disappointment,
Mhm.
right, in how that kind of navigates your world, right, your mental health, right? Because I feel like a lot of people are living in a place where they're living in chronic disappointment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that seems to lead to chronic regret,
Yeah.
right? And all of these things, to me, that's not a great place to live mentally,
Sure.
right? Because it's always like, man, you know what? Especially when you hit a certain age, it's like, you know what? I thought I'd be here by now.
Exactly.
I thought I'd be in a different place. Or why am I going through this now? Right? There's so many, and when you get to a certain point in life, it's like, man, you got to navigate so many different things, right? Some people have children, some people don't, right? You're managing sick parents and children, or
Mhm.
just managing a sick parent in and of itself, right? People are
Right.
passing away. A lot of just different things, like
Absolutely.
career wise, right? What does that look like? Oh, I thought I'd be further along in my career. A lot of things are happening in this world and with people,
Yeah.
and they're battling this chronic disappointment every day, and they're functioning. They're
Yeah.
going to work, they're high fiving people. They're on Zoom meetings, or in person meetings, and it's right. It's that
Exactly.
right, and then they come home. And I always say, sometimes it's never what you put out to others. It's what I worry about is when you lay your head on the pillow at night.
Mm.
What are your thoughts?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
that's when everything slows down,
Exactly.
and it's just you
Yeah.
by yourself,
Yeah.
right? In the room, or even if you're with your spouse, sometimes you
Mhm.
feel like you're by yourself,
That's right.
right? And not because they're not there for you, but because in your head you feel isolated,
That's right.
right? Um,
Absolutely.
So have you seen a lot of this, being, I mean, down through the years, I mean, you have a lot of experience, right? And like I said, there's a lot of letters, a lot of stuff after your name. So,
Right.
she's qualified to answer this particular question. Um, you know, what have you seen, right, in terms of, people living, right, in the state of chronic disappointment?
Absolutely. Well, but to start with that, I think this is a really great topic, especially in this day and age where we have social media and everyone is bombarded with, I don't want to say fake, but I'll just say false reality of what
That's
life
fake.
should be.
You ain't gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. It's fake.
Fake reality.
Hmm
So it gives you a false image of how your life should be. And if you're not measuring up to that standard, you're a
mm
failure. And I
mm
think that's something I see all of the time from people.
mm
That's something like even not clients, but that's, regular friends and family and colleagues. But, everyone's trying to meet a certain standard. And it's a lot of times measured based on how other people are living and
mm
what standards they are meeting.
mm.
And we can be our worst enemies when we begin to try to live our lives comparing ourselves to other people. I think that's one of the most dangerous things we can do.
Mm,
It's natural sometimes because we're
mm,
humans, and there's this I think natural competitive nature that many of us have, especially people who are highly motivated and you're wanting to reach certain goals in life. You are sometimes looking at others around you and saying, okay, what do I need to do to get there, or how do I get to that point? And that's
mm,
there's a healthy way of doing that, but there's also a very unhealthy way of doing that.
Mm,
You're doing it to the point where it is beginning to play on your mind and it's causing you to um, feel better, about where you stand right now, and you're not
mm,
content with your life right now, you're internalizing it. That can create some really negative, mental health issues within, whether it's anxiety or depression. A lot of that can begin to emerge. So I think, like I said, social media, I think, plays a huge role on that, a role in that. I think that comparison plays a huge role in that. Um, I think that we have to do better with
mm,
ourselves.
mm,
We have to begin to really say, I love who I am just as I am,
mm,
and stand in that. I don't think that that's something that a lot of people do enough,
mm-hmm,
because we always want to reach that next goal. And it's like, why not just sit back and enjoy where you are for a change and be
mm,
grateful for what you have in your life?
mm,
Um, yeah, yeah,
mm. And a key word,
yes,
gratitude.
yes.
And
Gratitude.
this is something that's been revolving in my life over the last year and a half, where there has been a hyper focus from me
Yes,
on gratitude
yes.
because I know how I get with a lot of different things, whether
Absolutely.
in, performance, right? I have my career, my corporate career, I have this podcast, very
Yes.
numbers driven, very driven to see things succeed, in my corporate world and in this world and other things that I do.
Right.
And I realized like sometimes I had to, in this last couple of years, so many things have happened for me where I said, I can't, like things are just happening that are uncontrollable.
Yes.
And at some point I was like, I need to focus on something. And it's gotta be gratitude about the
Absolutely.
things that I have,
Absolutely.
right? And where I feel like people take things for granted is the simple things that are the
Hmm.
biggest things.
Hmm.
So I'll give you one:
Yeah.
waking up. We take it for granted
Yes.
that we just wake up every day.
Yes.
Like that's not good enough,
Yes.
right? There are a lot of people who don't wake up every day.
There you go.
Number two,
There you go.
I'm not in the hospital.
There you go.
Now, I've been around a lot of sickness in my life, just
Hmm.
people, family, whatever the case is, and
Hmm.
I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
It affects families. And so for me not to be in the hospital, I'm focused on that,
Absolutely.
right? The
Absolutely.
car I drive,
Yes.
food in the fridge,
Yes.
small things that people really take for just like, whatever, right?
Absolutely.
But there's people who want that food in your fridge. There are
That's
people
right.
who need that food that you have in your fridge. There are people who don't have the means to get the food
Believe
that you have in your fridge,
that. Exactly.
right? It's the things that we wake up and just forget about because it's just natural. It just happens, right? These are the things I've actually chosen to focus on over these last probably 18 months
Right.
of my life, right? And these are the things I feel that has kept me grounded. Um, because even the privilege to do this,
Mhm.
right? To be able to talk to Dr. Lori, I'm grateful. I don't have to be able or have the ability to even do something like this,
Mhm.
right? And these are the things I've been focusing on in my life that say, you know what? I don't have this. Cool. I'm working towards that.
That's
But
right.
I have this and I
Exactly.
have my abilities, right? And I think when you start to see and you go down certain roads in your own state and you start to see people, in wheelchairs,
Yeah.
homeless,
Absolutely.
right? People are in the hospitals. And I'm like, if you really want to be humble, sometimes take a walk through a cancer hospital.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's,
Absolutely.
and that's where for me, when you say gratitude, it's just like, again, there's that word for me
Yes.
because that's really what I've been focusing on in my life as a man, you know,
Absolutely.
um, because I want more, I
That's
crave more, and you
that's
know where I'm from, you know the state I'm from.
yes.
It's hustle,
It
it's
is. It is.
grind,
Yes.
right? It's we got to get it
Exactly.
right, and there's no
Absolutely.
if, ands, or buts about it.
And it's every man for themselves. You're on your own.
It's very cutthroat.
Yes.
You know, it's very cutthroat. Um, so with that being said, in your incredible expertise, how do people begin to shift to that place of, you know what, I need to be more grateful, or that shift of gratitude? How do people make that mind shift to gratitude,
Yeah.
right? To be more grateful for what they have versus looking at what they don't.
I can tell you from my own personal perspective of how I've achieved that, because
Mm.
that, again, practicing what I preach, I can't tell my clients to do this and I don't practice it on a daily basis
Ooh.
myself. This
Hmm.
is something that I wouldn't say I'm at 100 with it, but I think I've come a long way,
Yes.
because I've always been a perfectionist. Things have to be
Mm.
way organized, and this is the time, and I plan ahead. And when things don't happen that way, I used to get so, bent out of shape. My goodness,
Mm.
didn't go right. What do I do? And falling apart and becoming anxious over it. But what I've learned is, and it's not me. This is for spirituality. My faith in God has really been my foundation,
Mm.
becoming more grateful and for slowing down, and
Mm.
really recognizing, what do I have around me?
Mm.
What can I say right now that I'm thankful for? Why should I not be unhappy in this season
Mm.
of my life?
Mm.
One of the things I do on a daily, well, monthly basis, I started doing this more recently, is I have a blessing book. And so for each month, January, February, March, April, May, June, so on and so forth, I write down every blessing that I've received in that month,
Mm.
just to remind me that God is working in my life.
Mm.
Sometimes we don't recognize our blessings in front of us because
Ooh.
either we're being overly blessed and we're just we just don't we're just getting things, and we just think we're entitled and we should be receiving all these blessings, so we don't recognize it.
Mm.
Or those subtle, those small things that we are being blessed with, we don't see those as blessings. So I try to
Mm.
write down everything, the big, the small, to remind me of how God is moving in my life,
Mm.
or what it is. And I just thank him for it. There's just gratitude in the fact that he is blessing me in known and unknown ways. And sometimes to just look
Mm.
at that each month has really helped me. So I think that sometimes slowing down and just being present and
Mm.
recognizing what is working in my life right now, what is
Mm.
going well in my life right now. We focus so much. I use a theory that I practice, solution focused therapy. And with solution focused therapy, we help clients to focus less on the problem, which means you have to change the way that you're talking. Your dialogue has to be different. You
Mm.
can't be problem focused, you turn to solutions.
Mm.
So I love that. There's so much power in that because we're not looking at what's not working. We're looking at what's working in our lives right now. And that's
Mm.
something that you can easily say to yourself, what's working right now for me? I'm so used to thinking about what's going wrong in my life and what isn't happening for me right now. What is happening?
Mm.
What is going well?
Mm.
It's not what can I be upset about and what can I be
Right.
angry about? What can I be excited about? I also
Mm.
tell my clients, you need to have something to look forward to. All of us do. You need to have something to be excited for in the future. Because what keeps us going? Like, what if you don't have anything to look
True.
forward to or anything
True.
to be working towards? What are you doing?
Mm.
So find something to look forward towards, or look forward to doing, rather. Find
Mm.
something that's going to get you excited, something that's going to get you up in the morning and get you ready for that day. And it can be anything, but something to look forward to, big
Mm.
or small, whatever you
Mm.
choose for it to be. But I think that we need to find things that are going to motivate us to get out of that slump of thinking negatively
Mm.
about ourselves, negatively about our seasons.
Mm.
Not every season is going to be extremely prosperous. There are going to be some down days. There are going to be some down months. There's not everything is always going to be up. There are going to
Mm.
be some low points in life that we have to learn to accept that too, that not everything is always going to be, wonderful, but it's all about the way you look at it. That's just life. Life is not perfect. Life is not always, you know,
Mm.
wonderful. Every day is not going to be great. But the fact, like you said, the fact that you're breathing, the fact that you're walking, you can use your limbs, you can talk, you can eat, you can get in your car and drive somewhere. You have a car, you have a license.
Mm-hmm.
Your license hasn't been suspended. You have
That
an
part.
active license, little basic
Mm-hmm.
small things. You have, food in your refrigerator. You have a job to go to that pays you. You may not like
Mm-hmm.
it, but you get paid and the checks don't
Mm-hmm.
bounce. So,
That is a fact.
right?
That is a
Those
fact.
are the things sometimes when you have nothing else to look forward to, you have to reach and you have to pull from what you have.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that. And you mentioned the one thing I love is the blessing book.
Yeah.
I think that's something that is really, really good to do.
Yeah.
Um, I think, and it's funny in a different way. I
Yeah.
think when me and my now girlfriend, when we first started to date and all of those things, I got this book. Well, they're two like little small books, right? And you have to write things in those books that you're grateful for about your partner for I think like 6 months straight, every day,
That's nice.
right? And then you have to gift that
Oh,
to the other person, right? And I in different but the same in terms of being in the always state of gratitude about the other person,
absolutely.
because I think in relationships we can always get complacent. We can
Yeah.
always, take things for granted,
That's true.
right? And so always being in that state of gratitude. Now I'm grateful for you that when you do this, when you do that, like how does this person show up for you that you love,
Absolutely.
right? It's all types of different questions that they have, but it's all geared towards you always being in the state of mind every day of this is what I
Exactly.
really like about this person. This is what
That's
I'm
nice.
grateful for. And then when you do all of those things and then you gift it to that person and they read it,
That's nice.
right?
That's nice.
And that's the blessing book, right? In terms of, but for you as an individual, right? And that's really, really dope. Um, and people will say, I don't have time.
Yes.
No, I don't have time. And listen, the one thing, Dr. Larry, I know you're busy. Listen, with all those certifications behind your name, I know you are busy, you are flourishing, you are doing a lot of work, and you're married.
In a married,
So
yeah.
so
Yes.
so for the people who say, "Oh, there's not enough time in the day to do a lot of these different things," and what do you say to that?
Oh, I love that question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to be very blunt.
Please.
If you have time to do the things you want to do in life, and people make time to do anything they want to do, yes. So if you can't take a moment to sit down and be present with yourself, and it may not be whatever your faith belief is, whatever that is, whatever you need to tune into, whatever that is. For me, it's God. It may be something different for someone else, and you
Mm,
may not want to call your blessing book a blessing book. You might want to call it something else. Whatever you choose, you make time for everything else. Why
mm,
can't you make time to pour into yourself? This is a way of giving back to yourself because we are inundated. Everyone is busy. I don't know
everyone.
one person that isn't busy,
Mm-hmm.
but you make time for the things you want to make time for.
Mm,
I make sure I prioritize that every morning and I make sure that I make time for the things that I want to do, and that's a part of it.
mm-hmm.
So, like one of the things I say, like if I don't have time to get up and pray and be present with God, then I better not have time to do anything else I want to do, whether it's shopping, whether it's going to an event on a weekend that is. I better not have time to do any of that either, because that's
Mm,
not giving back to number one, God, but giving back to me. I need that time every day to replenish myself before I
mm,
start my day.
mm,
And so, yeah, I believe you have time to do the things that matter to you most. So you have
mm,
to decide for yourself what matters. Do you matter? Does taking time for yourself matter? I would hope so, but I
mm-hmm.
think sometimes we put things on the back burner. It's easier to scroll on your phone and to see what other people are doing in their lives than to really work on your own life or to
Yeah,
focus on what you need to focus on. We're inundated with, again, and I hate to say social media can be really amazing if we use it the right way, but I think it can
right.
also be really negative if we're using it
Mm-hmm.
for the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm. And I think perspective is everything
Mhm.
because whenever you tell somebody to do something like
Yeah,
this, it's like, oh, this is something else I have to schedule into my thing,
exactly.
right?
Yes.
And it's like if that's the perspective you're leading with,
Yeah,
then you're never going to do it. Right.
that's
This
right.
is something for you. This is something for your mental health. This is something for your well-being. Right.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
you know what's funny? People work during their lunch break. So they'll
Yes.
be on their laptop and eating, whatever, eating these things, right?
Yes.
You can actually now, if you don't have time, okay, you
Mm-hmm.
don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
On your lunch break,
Mm-hmm.
open up your blessing book,
That's right.
right in there.
That's it.
Right? We pick and choose what we want to do,
There you
right?
go. There you go.
And
If we do, we really do.
you mentioned, right, every morning.
Mhm.
And these are for, this part is for the believers, right? So do you think that
Mhm.
uh the devotionals, the thing, should that be done in the morning or at night?
You know what? Either way is fine for me personally. I like to do it in the morning because it starts my day and it
Mm,
kind of prepares me for I need it to get me ready to get through that day.
got
However,
it.
some people do like to, do that at the end of the day to, give thanks for their day. So I think
Mm,
that's more personal, like whatever a
okay.
person chooses. But for me, I like to start the day off right. And that's
Mm-hmm.
how I do it. And it just works really well for me. Now, is it a little bit of a sacrifice on a morning where I know I have
Mm-hmm.
to be somewhere, or I have a meeting, or I have an appointment with a client, or, whatever, I have to teach a class, or
Mm-hmm.
it might be, but still, I work it out so that I have that time because I know what I need. This is pouring into me. And I think it makes me feel so good. Like I
Mm-hmm.
start my day off right. I start my day off in prayer. I start my day off giving thanks. I start my day off preparing myself for whatever I'm going to encounter that day. I can
Mm-hmm.
handle it better because of the way that I started that day.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And it's interesting, as believers, sometimes I feel when you're in type of could be difficult situations, and
Yeah.
how do you as a believer avoid the pitfalls of feeling like things are going wrong in your life
Mhm.
because you disappointed God?
That's
Right? I think sometimes as believers and people have different even inside believers, they have people operate differently,
yes.
right? And so they might believe in the same thing, but they operate different, right? So some people might say, man, I'm going through this because I disappointed God, or I went against God, or I sinned, or whatever the case is, right? Like there's a lot of different belief systems that operate within Christianity,
Yes, there are.
right? It's a lot going on, right? So
Yes,
how do you avoid those pitfalls, right, for yourself?
absolutely.
Um, to be, because I feel like sometimes that way of thinking is like it's being bad to yourself, right? It's
Yeah,
not being good to yourself. But how do you avoid those pitfalls as a believer?
absolutely. I think one of the things that I try to do is remind myself that I'm in relationship with God. So therefore, with that relationship, it is unconditional.
Mm,
And
mm,
because it's unconditional, I am always forgiven for anything. Even I'll use something as an example. I'm rushing in the morning. I wake up late. I have to hurry up and shower and get dressed and get out the door. I
mm,
didn't that time like I try to dedicate every day. And then I can fall really, I've done this before where I'm
mm,
like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I didn't pray. I ran out the door. Lord, forgive me that was awful. Now I'm able to get to where I need to be, but I didn't take the time to be with you. And I feel like that's just, sinful thing to do.
right, right.
I'm being a
Mm,
little dramatic, but
mm,
yeah, so something like that, I can kind of be, kind of feel hard on myself or be hard on
mm,
myself. And then I remember, but guess what? God's still here.
mm,
So I can still take that time when I have the time to be present. I can really spend time with him because what I didn't want to do was rush through my prayer just so I can get from point A to point B.
mm,
So it's okay because he's an unconditional God and he is not worried about all of that. He just wants to make sure that we take the time to be present with him. Um,
mm,
no matter what you do in life, you can always come back to him. No matter
Mm-hmm.
what you do in life, you might think it's a failure, but to him, it's not a failure because he knew you were going to do it beforehand. He knew what path
Mm-hmm.
you were headed on before you went down that route. He
Mm-hmm.
knew what you were thinking before you were thinking it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know this is maybe going off topic completely, and I
No,
apologize.
let's go. We'll get
But
back.
when we talk about faith in God, I just get excited.
Listen, we'll get back. No problem.
But it reminds me of the fact that our plans are not our plans. And this touches upon what you were talking about earlier. And I guess I just want to hone in on that really quickly, that we may think that our life is supposed to be, and this kind of speaks to me too. This is how I got to this place of saying, Lord, thank you for everything. Where I am is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Our plans are not exactly our plans. We think we are the authors of them, but we're really
Mm,
not. God is the author and the finisher. So when things go out of alignment and we think that we're supposed to be here, but we're really
mm,
here, it's all a part of a bigger plan that we don't understand and we're not supposed to understand right now. It's
mm,
beyond us. And
mm,
so I think it's really important when you get into that relationship with God, you begin to understand how he works. It
mm,
doesn't make sense a lot of times. Sometimes he positions us in places for such a time as this,
mm,
for us to grow, for us to take the steps we need to get to possibly where we're supposed to be. But it
mm,
takes time and there's a process and it's on a path that isn't always the way we have it organized or listed in our list of things or plans that we have in our lives.
mm,
And so we have to recognize that sometimes things are delayed. Sometimes things are on hold. It doesn't mean
mm,
that they're not going to happen. It's just a delay
mm,
for a
mm.
reason we don't know right now.
Man.
Yeah.
And how did you? So the one thing I feel about you is that you're a very peaceful person and content with whatever decisions you make and things like that. And
Yeah.
how did you come to this place of peace, right? I think because people rumble with these things when things don't go their way, right? Or when things don't go the way that they thought that it should, right? But you seem to have a certain level of peace about where your life has been,
Yeah.
right? No matter like the hardships and
Yeah.
where it is now, right? How did you come to that place of, you know what, even if things are on pause, I'm
Right.
okay. Even if things aren't where I think they might should be, because I'm ambitious and I'm a perfectionist. I'm at peace, right?
Yeah.
You seem to be at peace with things. How did
Absolutely.
you get to this place? Because I
Yeah.
feel like when I look at, the social media, or when I look up, or when I go on LinkedIn, and or
Yeah.
when I go and just people around me, just it's like it's not a lot of peace,
That's
right?
right.
And you have this incredible like aura of peace around you. Like, how did you get to this place?
Well, it took a long time to, and I'm not there completely. I'm still a work in
Mm-hmm.
progress, but I'm a lot further along than who I once was as being neurotic to some degree about everything had to be the way I wanted it to be. I just started
Mm,
realizing maybe a couple years ago that I'm not completely in control of my life. I'm just not. I'm not in control of every aspect of my life. There
all right.
are some things that I can do my part, but I need God to do the other
Mm,
half for me. I can't do everything on my own. So I'll use an
mm,
example. I feel like for me, my life has been a collaboration with God. Everything has been a collaboration. Um,
mm,
I'll give you two examples. One, my dissertation and my doctoral program. So we're going back circa 2012. Start
mm-hmm,
writing my dissertation. I was headed in one direction with my topic. I didn't like the topic. And my dissertation chair said, "This great topic, keep going with it." Well, I sat there for a year. I could not, the words were not coming out. So I'm talking
mm-hmm,
to my chair. I had moved back to New Jersey from Miami because I finished my coursework in the
mm,
doctoral program. So I was like, oh, I can go back home, save some money, move back to my mom's house and, write my dissertation, work because I'm licensed in New Jersey to
mm-hmm.
practice. So I'm going to go back home, I'm going to practice, and I'm going to write my dissertation. I'm on the phone with my dissertation chair. How far have you gotten? Not very far because I don't like this topic. Um, And so, yeah, I sat there for like a year and a half, and I was just not moving. And
Mm,
my chair finally says, look, you need to, what's going on? Like, you need to write. And I said, I am. I don't know. It's like writer's block. It's not coming out. She's like, well, at this rate, you're not going to finish if you don't. Now, wait a minute. I'm not going to finish if
mm-hmm,
get it
mm-hmm,
going. No one's
mm-hmm.
ever told me anything like that before. What does that mean? So that was really the catalyst for me. I remember I went into prayer big time because I said, God, you brought me this far. I don't know what I'm doing at this point. Like, I don't like this topic. I don't know what I'm going to
Mm,
write about. I'm lost. And then when I would write things, she would reject it. It wasn't working out. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
mm,
No clue. And
mm-hmm,
so I remember praying and I remember saying, God, I need you to take my pen and begin to help me with this because I can't do this on my own. And so
mm,
the next day I got up and I went to the library, my old university, and started taking out books. I don't even know what I was reading. I was reading
mm-hmm,
like, I had like 20 books
mm-hmm,
sitting there in the library. And I'm reading through the books and I'm writing away and I'm writing away. And I stayed there for about 5 or 6 hours. I went home, I wrote some more. That weekend, I kept writing, I kept writing. I worked on that for about 2 weeks. And that was my proposal, which we write a proposal. We have to defend the proposal before we go forward. That's like your first 3 chapters of your dissertation. You defend
mm,
that proposal, and then once it's approved, you can write your last 2 chapters. You can actually move forward with your data collection, data analysis, and, complete your last 2 chapters. So, um, oh, I don't remember if that's your first two or first. It's been a long time. It's the
mm.
first couple of chapters.
Yeah.
But I say that because once I started writing, the words started coming out. They started just flourishing. And I remember giving it to my chair, and she said, girl, you can write. Like, you are an amazing writer. And I was like, this is the same woman who didn't like what I was writing. And I
Mm-hmm,
changed topics. The topic that I was supposed to write about came to me out of the blue. And that's when I just started getting the books and I was reading and I'm like, we're going down a different path. This is not what I expected. And I wrote my dissertation about the down low experience of African American men in the Black church, which was not
mm.
where I was going.
Right,
And
right.
that's where I ended up going. And it ended up being an amazing dissertation. But I knew
Mm,
that that was not something that I would have been capable of writing without his help. And
mm,
so we fast forward to today, most recently. Um, I have been working on different research, and when you are a professor, you have to get your research published. That's part of what we have to do.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
That's a huge part of our job. And it's very hard to get your manuscripts published. And writing a manuscript is literally like a mini dissertation. You're writing like a
right.
chapter of a
Mm-hmm,
dissertation. So not as extensive, but it does take a lot of work when you're, teaching and you're doing all other responsibilities. It's a lot. So I
mm-hmm,
remember I had this research I worked on 3 years ago. I started sending it out to get it reviewed for
mm-hmm.
publication. It was denied the first time. I fixed it to the best of my ability, responding to all of the reviewers' comments. It was denied a second time. And I'm like, I've worked really, really hard on this research. I give up at this point.
Mm-hmm,
Denied twice. What am I supposed to do? So I began praying because I'm like,
mm,
I've invested 3 years of my life on this research. God, what am I supposed to do with this? And
mm-hmm,
so literally it came to me. What you're going to do is open up your computer and you're going to look up specific journals that this would fit. It would be a better fit. You're not going to go back to that same journal. Leave them alone.
mm.
I found a journal and I said, this is a really, really what we call impact factor, really high impact factor journal. So
Mm,
I don't want my little manuscript. I'm not feeling too great about this. And my response internally was send it out. So
mm,
I sent it out and I wasn't expecting anything. I have been rejected. So at this point, I'm thinking this manuscript's not getting published. I need to just
mm-hmm,
work on something else.
mm-hmm,
Lo and behold, I get probably 2.5, 3 months. It takes about 3 months for them to respond. So 3 months later, I get a response. And this was last year. So October, I sent it out. January, the first week of January, I get a response.
Mm-hmm.
You are, I wasn't accepted, but we need you to make some minor revisions. When you get a response saying minor revisions, that means you're almost there. So they
Mm-hmm.
gave me comments. I went ahead and I fixed everything. And I'm like, and I get a turnaround in 2 weeks, accepted. It's
Wow.
published. So here we are
Wow.
today. I got it published.
Wow.
I say that,
Congratulations. Right.
thank you. It's very exciting. But I
Mm-hmm.
say that because if I didn't allow myself, of course, to grieve the process of being rejected, and I know we talked a little about
Mm.
grief earlier, and if I didn't pray about it, because I was ready to end that, I wasn't going to go any further with that research. It was just going to be in a closet going somewhere with maybe the garbage. I don't know. But I wasn't going to tap into that. I prayed, and through prayer, I was given direction. I was
Mm.
given direction where to go because I was not looking at the specific journal. It was
Mm.
not on my radar whatsoever. And it came to me through prayer. And literally, that was the journal for me because it got published. How does an
Mm.
article that was rejected twice get
Mm-hmm.
accepted
You
by
can get
one of the
accepted.
highest international journals in this
Mm-hmm.
specific topic?
Mm.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And as you were
So,
talking, the one thing is there might be somebody out there, right,
mhm.
who's like, man, that's great. Seems like God speaks to Dr. Laurie all the time. Like when like
Oh.
she got him on the main line, like she got him on the main line, right? And that's amazing. But have you ever been through a season where
Mhm.
you felt God was silent?
Absolutely.
And how did you deal with
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely. So
Because that could
going
be
back,
hard. It's like
yeah,
God is not here. What happened?
yeah,
Where is he?
yeah.
How did you deal with that?
So going back to, I'll use those two examples.
Mm-hmm.
Dissertation, that whole year and a half where I wasn't writing anything but garbage, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I was lost and I was kind of going through the wilderness with that because I've dedicated my entire life to my education pretty much.
Mm.
So getting to that point of I'm only all I need is my dissertation to be completed for me to get this degree.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of standing in my way. I felt lost. I've come
Mm.
this far. I've done so well academically, and now I'm stumped. I can't get further in my writing. And I remember kind of, at that point, even with friendships, like I was in a really bad place with that because you feel like
Mm.
a failure. I can't get through writing this dissertation, but I boasted and I was so proud of myself with, passing my comprehensives,
Mm-hmm.
having graduated the 3.9 something GPA.
Ooh, wee.
I did all of these great things and then
Mm-hmm.
I start writing my dissertation. I can't get any further. To me, that was automatic failure. And I didn't feel like I was making any progress.
Mm.
So I would pray, but I didn't feel like God was hearing me because I'm not getting any further. And so I don't know what happened that changed that. I just think it was time. And that kind of goes back to there's a time and place for everything, and our plans are
Mm.
not our plans. I think I had to go through that in order to be more appreciative of where he was taking me.
Ooh.
And that goes back with even with the most recent publication. I had to go through the season of getting rejected to be that more appreciative and to see how God worked it out for me. See, sometimes it's like we don't recognize it when it comes so easy. But when you
Mm.
go through something and you feel like it was a struggle to get through and you see that, okay, God, I prayed, you're not hearing me. But I
Mm-hmm.
believe you're going to come through because you've done it before. See, I knew he worked it out for me with my dissertation. So this publication was going to come at some point. I don't know when, maybe at some point in the near future, but he worked it out before. He will do it again. And
Mm.
going through the rejections and getting ready to throw out all this research and this hard work that I did for him to turn it around and for me to not just get published in we call predatory journals who
Mm-hmm.
try to get you to publish with them, but they're really not good journals.
Mm.
Not a predatory journal, a really high impact factor journal that I didn't expect. I
Right.
didn't see that coming with the rejections, but I appreciate it, and I can say that wasn't just me, it was God working through me.
Mm.
So I think that those seasons of quietness and those seasons where you're struggling, it's sometimes to teach you to wait on God.
Mm. I love the way you like think about like things in God and in like the healthy perspectives that you have. 'Cause I think it's important because I think a lot of people think about God in such an unhealthy way, right?
Yeah,
In it's like I said, Christians there's a lot of Christians, but then they think about their things that well their thoughts and their beliefs vary from person to person,
sure,
right?
sure.
And some of those things can affect your mental health also, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and so I think a lot of times people have a thing with God where it's like, I'm disappointing God all the time,
Yeah.
you know, or I'm disappointing someone, right? I'm disappointing God. I'm disappointing my parents. I'm disappointing my kids. I'm disappointing so and so, right? I'm disappointing my partner, my spouse. Like, it's like people live with a lot of these things, right?
Yeah,
All the time,
that's right.
right? Which also can affect your mental health because if you're walking around chronically thinking that you're a disappointment, that's a problem,
Exactly.
right? You know, and that
Exactly.
you're always doing something wrong. What did I do to get here? What did I do? Right. And sometimes just how you would think about it, like how you explain it so beautifully and so amazingly is it's just sometimes you just have to wait.
You do. You
But what
do.
do people have a problem with normally?
Patience.
Patience. I'm a New Yorker. You know, the patience is gone. It's
Yes.
very thin, very thin, very thin.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
But those
Absolutely.
that wait on the Lord,
That's
right?
right, Shelburne. I was just reading that scripture this morning before we came on here. Those that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall
Yep.
mount up with wings
Mount up.
as eagles. Yes.
Oh, I know something about it now. You
Yes.
know, that's a little different. That's another story for another day. You know,
That's right.
but that's funny that you read that before.
Yeah, I
You know,
did. I
okay, things going on here. You know, so
did. That's right.
so so when people and since people are their thought process are very different about different things, and I think the one thing that we all have a problem with tackling is grief,
Yeah.
right? Um, because yes, we know grief, death. People equate grief with death,
Yes.
physical death, right?
Right.
And that's a part of it. You know, in life, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
loss is loss, and I don't think people understand how much they grieve on a daily basis and
Yeah.
what they grieve,
That's right.
right? Well,
That's
nobody
right.
died, nah, but you know what? You know, but things are dying around you. Loss of
Exactly.
friendship,
That's right.
right? Loss
Hmm.
of a job,
Hmm.
income,
That's right.
right? You know,
That's
it
right.
could be, you know what, your parent is sick, right?
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
and they're not once what they were,
There you go.
right? Grief,
Yeah.
right? Your kids are not doing what you think that they should be doing.
Yeah.
Grief,
That's
right?
right.
You're not
Yeah.
accomplishing the things that you think. Grief,
Exactly.
right?
That's
It's
right.
all around you, and you may not even really realize that you're
Exactly.
really grieving and you're acting
Exactly.
out. You're experiencing things,
Yeah.
right? But a lot of us are functional grievers, right? Like
Hmm.
we function in depression, we
Yeah.
function a lot, right?
Hmm.
And so in a lot of it, even with believers, a lot
Yeah.
of it is performative, right? We say the right things
Hmm.
while we're going through things because it's the right thing to say,
Yes.
right? You know, how you doing? Blessed and highly favored,
Exactly.
right? You know, and when I
Exactly.
speak to my therapist sometimes, and when she'll always say, "Well, what's the evidence?"
Yeah.
Right, of what you're
That's
saying,
right.
right?
There
Like,
you go.
what is the evidence of what you're
That's
saying,
right. What are
right?
your fruits? What are your fruits? Are your fruits also matching what
Right?
you're speaking?
Because we're also good at masking things,
Yes.
right? Oh, I'm blessed.
Yes.
But inside just turmoil in your head,
That's
right?
right.
But we want to say the right things, the righteous things, or the
Exactly.
churchy things,
Yeah.
or the things that we feel like we're supposed to say, right? Instead of
Mhm.
acknowledging, hey man, look, I'm a
Exactly.
little messed up here, dog.
That's right.
I'm
That's
feeling like this today, right? I'm not good today.
exactly.
I'm mad as I don't know what today
That's
because
right.
of things that are going on, or I'm upset, I'm sad, I'm, you know, and sometimes, but then there's a contradiction of certain things because then it's like, and a lot of times in churchy stuff and Christianity, sometimes like, I don't claim that. I don't claim
Yeah.
it. I don't claim it. I don't claim it. And it's like, it gets
Absolutely.
to a point where it's like, how do we get to a point of being honest and accountable with ourselves
Yeah.
about, you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like, I don't got high blood pressure, dog. Your numbers say something a little different, dog. I ain't claiming high blood pressure. you gotta see what's going on in your world so you can make a change. So one day you can say you don't have high blood pressure. But
Exactly. You
right
have,
now, dog,
that's right.
you about to be in the hospital,
Yeah,
right?
do
Because
something.
it's bad. But we're
That's
saying, I don't want to claim it. I don't want to claim this. I don't want to claim that. I don't want to claim it.
right.
That's not of
Yep.
God. And
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
like, where do we get to a place where it's like, how do, and this is grinds my gears a lot because I've been around it a lot of my life,
Mhm.
where it goes to, I don't claim, I don't claim, I don't claim, to the
Yeah,
detriment of your health and of your wellness, right?
exactly.
Because it puts you in a place of denial,
It does.
right? And it's just like, but in church they teach you don't say this in church or in the Bible. It's like, okay, how do we get to a place that
Exactly.
we could be open and honest about what's really going on? No, I don't have diabetes. Dog, your sugar 450. You got diabetes,
Exactly.
right? I don't
Yes.
want to claim it. It's
There.
it's
It's
claiming you
evident.
at
That's
this point,
evident.
right? So in
Yeah.
order for you to understand that,
Yeah.
until you want to get to a point to where maybe you don't have diabetes anymore,
Yeah.
but you have to understand what's going on in your body right now to make you say, I gotta stop my own behaviors with certain foods or
Exactly.
certain things or certain lifestyles that I have. I can't
Exactly.
just eat 4 cupcakes and say I don't claim diabetes. Now,
Exactly.
them cupcakes is claiming you, right? You doing it to yourself
Right.
and you're adding religiosity
Exactly.
on things.
That's
And
right.
it's just like, how do we get to a place
Yeah.
where we
Yeah.
could be honest and say, no, no, I'm feeling this. I'm honest about my
Exactly.
stuff. I'm feeling depressed. I'm I'm not feeling well in my body. I'm not.
Absolutely.
These are the facts. But then you have this thing on the other side that's saying, hey, don't claim it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know.
What happens is I think people use religion, even spirituality at times, as an excuse for their behaviors. And so using the examples you just gave when it comes to health and food, and there's a reason, why are you eating 4 cupcakes? Are you using that to, cover up something? Are
Mm-hmm.
you using that to comfort you? What's going
Mm.
on there? And that would need to be really, resolved first in order to get to the point of, where people say, well, I'm not going to claim it. I'm not going to claim this problem or that problem, but let's look at the underlying issue. What's really going on and
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging that. But I think, and I remember years ago, we talked a little bit about this,
Mm.
but the stigma of mental health in the Black community and how
Ooh.
we are conditioned, I think, in a lot of ways to, yes, turn to religion, which, faith. I would say faith because I see
Mm-hmm.
myself as more spiritual than honing in on one religion. But I would say sometimes we throw things on God where we have a lot of responsibility and need to take accountability for our actions, and oh, God will heal that. Oh, God will take care of that. Well, you have to do your part too. And if you're not, I don't think God's going to condone your behavior. Not that he's going to
Mm.
also punish you, but I think he's going to allow you to learn a couple lessons so that you can come
These are the
out of
facts.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that we do use belief system as a cover up for a lot of negative things, a lot of whether it's behaviors, whether it's thoughts. I think
Mm-hmm.
that happens a little too often. And I wish that we would have a shift, whether it's in church or, to begin to teach people some of the things that they're doing, it's self-sabotage. But again, it's conditioned. And we can go back historically
Yep.
as to why a lot of these things happen, why things are said, why things are done the way that they are. But we have to
Mm.
start coming out of that because it's definitely detrimental. It's
Yeah. People will not claim stuff until they're in the grave,
yeah, and
right?
it's too late at
Don't
that
go to
point.
the doctor. Don't do
Hmm.
certain things because they don't claim certain things.
Yeah,
Avoidance, right?
yeah,
I think a lot of times people use I don't claim as
yeah,
avoidance, right? Because
absolutely. It
it's
is.
like,
It
oh, I
is.
don't want to deal with it. I
Yeah,
don't want to deal with them saying
absolutely.
I have sugar or
Yeah.
high blood pressure or high
Hmm.
cholesterol
Hmm.
or or this or that,
That's
or
right.
depression, anxiety, or whatever it is that you're going through. It's like, "Nah, I don't claim it. I don't gotta deal with it, right?" And it's like at some point, right, you know, you've got to be honest with
You do.
yourself,
You do.
right? and
Yeah,
about even your own behaviors,
that's right.
right?
Exactly.
And be open and honest about those things. And
Yeah,
maybe if you can be open and honest about those things that are going on in your
yeah,
life,
that's right.
you actually may be able to say one day, I have my blood pressure under control, or I have my diabetes up under control,
Exactly.
or I have a therapist now, and I'm working through some things, and
Exactly.
God, and then yes, God is blessing me,
And
right,
then,
to move through and to push through,
yeah,
right. And I always found that would grind my gears when people say I don't claim stuff and it's in their face, right? And
yeah,
it's like, are you sure that you
exactly.
don't have this?
Absolutely.
Because the
Denial.
numbers say different, your attitude says different,
Yeah.
your demeanor says different, and
Hmm.
you need help in
That's it.
some way, shape, or form. And prayer
Absolutely.
is good.
Yeah,
Prayer is wonderful. Reading
absolutely.
your Bible is wonderful,
Right.
but you also need to take the
That's
cupcakes out
it.
your mouth,
That's it. You have to do your part. You cannot
right?
expect God to work a miracle when you're doing the opposite of what is, I would say, even biblical. Like if we use
Mm-hmm.
gluttony, you're doing
Mm-hmm.
something that is comforting, or you're finding some type of refuge or solace in it. It makes you feel
Mm-hmm.
good, whatever that could be, whatever someone's vice is.
Absolutely.
If it is hurting you, that isn't of God. So you can't use God as your reasoning and then he'll just fix it and make it all good. You're doing something that's going to hurt you. You're doing
Mm.
something that is um, kind of going against what God wants you to do. So then you just want him to fix it or resolve it. And it doesn't work
Mm-hmm.
that way. You have to do your
Mm-hmm.
part, whether it's going to counseling, whether it's going to the doctor, whether it's
Mm.
taking care of your health. And as you said too, Terrence, like at some point when someone begins to take those steps, then they can look back and say, wow, that those are the actions that I was engaging in that caused me to have to get to this point, but I'm so glad that I did.
Right.
Because it
Right.
really is that learning experience.
Mm-hmm. And I always say therapy removes the mask of who you think you are, and it
Yeah,
shows you who you are,
that's true.
right? It shows you the real you,
Yes,
the
it does.
messy you, right? The accountability. And that's the beginning process of, oh, I didn't think,
Exactly.
I thought I was on. I thought I was all that. I
Exactly.
thought I was cold. And it's
Yeah.
like, nah, bro, like you need a mirror. Right? And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I am unhealthy, right? It could be
Mhm.
physically, it could be things. And if people say these things, it's not like you're saying, like, oh, I'm always going to be like this. But honestly, saying it out loud sometimes, like, I am unhealthy,
Exactly.
right? Like, oh, I don't claim being fat. No, dog, you fat, right? Like, you are overweight,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
These are the facts. Not now that we know the facts,
Right.
what can we do now to address the
Exactly.
problem and move
Abs
forward,
Absolutely. There's
right?
something you said earlier also, Terrence, like one of the things I've seen, when it comes to religiosity and people kind of using, I don't, yeah, I guess I'll use that term, using
Yes.
using God as an excuse, when they're really going through a lot of turmoil internally and they're trying to either say the right things, like you said, oh, I'm blessed and highly favored, oh, things are wonderful,
Mm-hmm.
oh, all of that. I find that a lot of times people will also, when they're going through stuff, they'll make themselves seem like they're so busy. Like, oh, I'm involved in this. Oh, I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
that. Oh, I have this out and that. And I'm going here and I'm going there. And
Mm-hmm.
they'll just flood themselves with different things that they have to do so that they don't have the opportunity to be present with themselves and to
Mm-hmm.
just sit alone. And I think that that's something people really have to do, especially when you're going through something in life you're struggling. Sometimes having a lot of noise around you, and this can be if you are a person of faith or not.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just need some quietness. You need to
Mm.
get the noise away from you. Being around people, being super busy is not always productive. I always hear the comments about the streams of income, having multiple streams of
Yeah.
income.
Oh yeah.
Nothing wrong with that
Oh
if
yeah.
you're healthy, emotionally,
Mm.
physically, spiritually. There's nothing
Mm.
wrong with that. But I say
Mm.
to people sometimes, if you're doing that and you can't check all the other boxes, are you doing that to avoid having those deep conversations with yourself? Let me just get really busy. Let me have multiple streams and everything else within me is falling apart. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work very well.
Avoidant. That's like
Yeah,
avoidant behavior,
yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
And I think it's hard to sometimes face the things you know is wrong,
Yes, that's
right?
right.
It's hard. It's easier to just avoid, right? And
Yeah,
say, I don't want to deal with it right now. I'll get to
yeah,
it later. And
yeah.
I don't think people understand how much trauma builds up throughout the years,
It does.
right? It's like a snowball.
Yeah,
And you might be functioning a high functioning person,
yeah.
right? To where you can go to work with the kids and do all these things. But
Hmm.
at some point, there's going to be a break and a shift in
Absolutely.
you,
Yeah,
right? To where you won't probably even recognize who you are anymore.
that's right.
You could be making the money, but
Yeah,
not recognize what you've become,
that's right.
right? When you
Absolutely.
have children and now you're taking it out on your children, you're taking it out on your spouse, you're
That's right.
bleeding all over your friends,
Yeah,
like you're just dumping everything on people, right?
absolutely.
And at
Absolutely.
some point, it's like you look up and say, well, how did I get here? When did this start?
Hmm.
Right? And because trauma builds on top of trauma.
Yes,
You
it
don't
does.
address one trauma, then
Yes,
something new pops up. Now you're dealing with that. And when people say, "Man, it's just one thing after another," and it's like, yeah,
it is.
right. Have we dealt with these things from 10 years ago? Have we
Exactly.
dealt with these things from 15 years ago? Or
Absolutely.
have we just been building a trauma portfolio?
There you go. That's right.
Right?
I like that term too. Absolutely. Because literally, if it were a book and you were to open it up, you have layers,
Mm-hmm.
layers, and chapters of trauma that were never resolved.
Mm-hmm. Like
That
in
you're
real estate,
still,
they got a
yeah,
housing portfolio. Nah, you got a trauma portfolio, dog. It's
exactly.
everywhere.
Exactly. I always use the Erica Badu Bag Lady song as an example because people just, yeah, I love that song because it's
Yeah.
representative and metaphoric
Mm-hmm.
of what people do. You put stuff in your bag and you carry it, and you keep loading it up, and your back is hunched over. And this is actually what people do. We may not
Mm-hmm.
see the bag on their back, we don't see them carrying it, but it's there and it's a heavy load, and they're slumped over emotion,
Mm,
and don't even recognize themselves anymore.
mm,
Well, I
mm,
think that that is a huge issue. And sometimes what I hear from people is that when it comes to past trauma, especially like whether it's childhood trauma, they're looking for someone else to either do the work or apologize, and then they
mm-hmm,
can move forward and be free. It doesn't work like that. You need to heal for you, not for what your mother did, your father did, your sister did, your brother did, your
mm,
grandmother did, your
mm,
teacher in first grade did.
mm,
You need to heal for you, not for any of those
mm,
other people. And should you choose not to, it falls on you, not on them.
mm-hmm,
And so
mm-hmm.
that I find is also a reason people don't seek help, because they're waiting for someone else. I'm just waiting for her to come and apologize. I'm
Closure.
waiting for him to come and say something. And they probably won't
May
ever do
never
it.
happen.
In 55 years, 60 years, 70 years, and they haven't done it, they're not going to do it. So
Mm-hmm,
you can either be stuck and live your life like this forever,
mm-hmm,
or you can do something different and get to a better state for yourself.
mm-hmm. And only you sometimes you have to be your own closure.
You do.
You know, like the
Absolutely.
person that left.
Yeah.
And do I want to know why?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. Yes.
Some point it may not matter why.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
you have to make a choice to whether you choose you and move forward,
That's
or
right.
this person is going to live rent free in your head every day
That's
of your
right.
life
That's right.
for years.
For years, and you're walking around angry. And if that person is still alive at this point, they're living their lives. It's a full
Best
life
life.
too. Yes. That's right.
They done moved on and with somebody new or happy, and you
Right.
are sitting here miserable and
Exactly.
wondering why. Why doesn't
Exactly.
anybody want to date me? Why doesn't anybody want to, deal with me? And it's because you have
Exactly.
unresolved issues,
Unresolved
right?
issues. Yeah.
And then also what's unfair is you want someone new to
Hmm.
come along and heal you
Wow.
without
Dangerous.
you doing the work,
Yes.
right? Oh, this person's going to make me happy, or this person has come in and is going to do this. And it's like, you know, that's not realistic, right? And this person's going to make me happy. Not really understanding happiness is a fleeting feeling. And what
Absolutely.
you should strive for is peace.
Yes.
You'll never have peace
Yes.
with anyone new
Right.
unless you are the one that gives yourself the permission to have the closure that you need to move forward in life.
Absolutely. That's 100% correct.
You
Yeah.
know, it's unfortunate, because I think people give other people way too much power over them, right, from the past, but then also they give too much power to other people in their life. And that's a heavy load to carry
Yeah.
to expect someone to heal you from something that someone else did to you.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
you're giving too much power to the past, and you're also giving too much power to the person who's in front of you, right?
Exactly.
And,
Yes.
and, and they might be a great person, but they may not be the one that can heal you, right?
Exactly.
That might
What a
be a
possibility.
you thing and a God thing. I might just be between you and God, and you could sabotage
Exactly.
any relationship that you have
Yeah.
if you're not really healed yourself. And I don't mean fully, but you're
Absolutely.
doing the work actively,
That's it.
right?
And I think just acknowledging, just what you said, just acknowledging that piece, I think that's the hardest part right there. Just saying, I need help and opening that door for help and just allowing yourself to be vulnerable in the process and allow
Mm,
everything else. At that point, it'll all come together once you allow yourself to do that. But I think getting to that point, people really struggle there. They really struggle with identifying the fact that they need help, identifying that there's something going
mm,
on inside of them. They don't want to own up to that because
mhm.
that means that I'm flawed. That means something is really wrong with me. And it doesn't. It just means you have stuff to work on like everybody else.
Well, pride,
That's
right?
fair. Yes.
Pride is an
Yes,
interesting thing, all right?
absolutely.
And
It
pride
will,
and ego.
yes, it will humble you, but I think people, it's a facade.
Mm,
A lot of times that facade or that mask that people will wear, like everything is okay. We go right back to what we were talking about before. If people are using religion, in the church, everyone wants to look like everything is
they
good.
got it together.
Yes. And the church is for people a lot of times who need to receive a message because there is some level of brokenness. That's who God
Hmm.
wants to reach. So if you're coming in so perfect, then why are you there?
Yeah. And I think what people don't understand is there are people who can read their Bible 7 days a week
Hmm.
and pray 7 days a week, do their devotional 7 days a week, and
Yes.
still be a mess mentally.
100%.
There's
Yes.
this thing, right, where people say, oh, if you release everything to God, everything is going to be okay. And it's like, okay, so let me ask you this now. Okay, so if I have a broken leg and I read
Mhm.
my Bible 7 days a week, I pray, I fast, I do everything that I'm supposed to be doing. I have my devotional 7 days a week. Is my leg going to be still broken after 7 to 14 days? I think the answer might be yes, right? So what you need to
Absolutely.
do is to get yourself to the doctor
Right.
to have that leg fixed, right? And there are people that are
Absolutely.
broken mentally,
Hmm.
right? And we do this a lot when it comes to religion and mental health. It's like, oh, if you just give your cares to God, everything is gonna be okay.
You
Everything
do.
is gonna, He'll take care of it, no problem. Not understanding you're doing this every day and you're
Yeah.
still in a mess
Yes.
every day, emotionally and mentally. And at
Yes.
that point, it's God and therapy, do both,
Yes.
right? It's
Exactly.
both. Like
Yes, it
it's
is.
just activate yourself to
Yes.
do something for yourself, right? And
Absolutely.
it's a
Absolutely.
beautiful thing to do all the things for God and pray. But then I always say God gave you common sense,
Yes, he did.
some more than others,
That's
right?
right. That's
But
right.
He's given you common sense.
Yes.
If you're
Yes.
still struggling mentally, I don't care how much you go to church, you're hooting, hollering, you speak in tongues, you're rolling on the floor, you're doing the Dougie in church. Whatever it is you got to do, you're doing
That's
it,
right.
right? And then
That's
you're
right.
reading your Bible, you're doing all these things, and then you're like, well, why am I still like this? Because you haven't tried to get yourself any help.
Exactly. Exactly. It's not a I think a lot of times people think it's going to be this automatic, miraculous recovery that will come out of nowhere without them doing anything on their part. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why God has created doctors and therapists and any other helping professional that exists. We're there to support and to help you get to the next step in life.
Yes.
We wouldn't exist. And I feel like this is so reminiscent of when we talked 3 years ago, because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I said this. Wow, that is very reminiscent. Okay, should I say this?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I do this because this is my calling. This is my
Mm-hmm.
ministry.
Mm-hmm.
My work, this is my platform that I use as a ministry for those who want to hear, whatever message that God has used me as a vessel to give to them. And so with that being said, I don't think that he would put me in this position, which I know he put me in this position to
Mm-hmm.
be able to do this work if it wasn't something that he made available. It's from
Mm.
him. So therefore, it's not going against the Bible or the church to receive help.
No,
But I think that stigma is still very present.
they
And
should have a you in
yeah.
every church, in every single one, especially nowadays. They need to have you in all the schools,
Oh,
all the churches. They need to have because people listen. The one thing is the difference between the church is people run churches.
yes.
People run churches.
Yes.
Your relationship with God is different,
It is.
but
Yes.
people
Yes.
run churches. So
Mhm.
therefore, churches are flawed.
Yes.
Churches have heavy
There
trauma
you
in
go. Yes.
there,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
there needs to be sometimes just like you got somebody on the usher board,
Yeah.
you got somebody doing the announcements, you got
Yeah.
people right taking care of the finances. You need somebody to be up in there taking care of some of these people mental health too. Like you need to have
Exactly.
resources,
That's right.
right?
That's
Because I
right.
feel like sometimes in church, what it is an
Hmm.
injection of adrenaline,
Hmm.
positivity, right, to get you through Sunday, and you might have a burst of
Freedom.
adrenaline Monday, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm on fire.
Yeah.
And by
Yeah.
Tuesday, you out of gas, dog. Like you out of
Exactly.
gas,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And you
Yes.
need some, and that's why when there's everything, when you're doing multiple things,
Yes.
when you're going to church, okay, great. When you're reading
Mhm.
about, okay, great. When you're
Mhm.
on your therapy call,
That's
great.
right.
When you're seeing a doctor,
That's
good,
right.
right? When everything is working together for your good,
Good. Exactly. That's right. That's right. Then it
right?
all makes sense.
It's
It all
all
makes sense.
coming
It,
together,
that's right.
right? And I think that's where it's like we've had this mentality of a singular mentality of
Yeah.
we just got to do this thing and
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, we got to do other things too,
Absolutely.
right? Like
Absolutely.
we gotta do a lot of these other things to make sure that our life is well rounded and
Exactly.
and healthy. And there
That's
are good doctors in place, medical doctors in place. There are good therapists in place like yourself, right? That are ready and able to
yeah.
help people,
Yes.
right? Who are Christian, even for you, who are believers,
Yeah.
who are ready to really do an amazing work. And that's why I say they need people like you in these churches to be like, hey, listen, this is our resident therapist here.
Right. Right. In-house,
Because the
to
truth
go.
is, that's the one thing we don't talk about is
Yeah.
ministers aren't therapists,
That's right. Exactly.
right? Even when you talk about Catholics, people, in no disrespect to Catholics, but they go to priests to do confession, right? And
That's
all of
right.
these things, right?
Yes. Yes.
And then a lot of times, especially in the black community, especially, we go tell pastor, people go tell their pastor all their business,
They do.
right? And wonder
Yes.
how to get out. That's another conversation for another day. But
Because
nevertheless,
there's no confidentiality or privacy
nothing, right?
policy there.
And then it's the counsel is going to only really be spiritual, right?
Yes, that's right.
So it's like,
Hmm.
hey, we have a resource here at this church that
Yeah,
if you guys need additional not non-spirit, if you guys need mental and emotional support, we have
yeah,
somebody here. If you need spiritual
exactly.
counseling, I'm here. The
That's
pastor's here,
right.
right? But
That's
we also
right.
have somebody here for mental, emotional. We're gonna get it done, right?
Absolutely.
you know
Absolutely.
and that to me creates a better system for the church
It
too,
does.
right?
Yes.
Because then you ever wonder why pastors get burnt out,
Yes. That's right.
because everybody's going to them with like their mental health and emotional health, their physical ailments, their this, their that, and the pastor's
Yeah,
like, yo, I got 500 congregants, and they all come
exactly.
to me, oh, pastor, I got this, we
That's
got that,
right.
I got this, I got
Too
that.
much.
Pray for me, pray for me,
It's
pray for me.
too much.
And it's like, oh, I'm tired, bro.
Yes. Yep.
Right? And then you want to know how people lead the pulpit? I'm tired, right? So it's like if you got resource or have resources in the church. Yeah, hey, listen, we're partnered with the local hospital. If you need anything, head
That's
over there. If you need mental
absolutely
health services, emotional health, we got somebody over here. We're gonna
exactly.
hold group therapy in the basement, right?
Exactly.
If grief counseling in the basement. So
Exactly.
if you can be good enough to have a prayer meetings,
That's
then you
right.
should be good enough to say, hey, then on Tuesdays or Thursdays, we're gonna have grief counseling here, and then we'll have prayer
Exactly.
meeting on Friday. Like
Exactly.
if we could have
Exactly.
multiple services, multiple this, all these board meetings and this and that and the third, then hey, we should be able to have some mental health. We should have some
I
counseling right
agree.
here in the
I
basement as well
agree.
for people who are going through.
And wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't
It
that
should
create
be.
ch dynamic change for people? Because it would destigmatize it
Yeah.
and it would, they would feel more comfortable in their own setting, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't have to go
Mm-hmm.
into an office. Some people are uncomfortable with technology, so telehealth isn't something they'd want to do, especially if they're older too.
Exactly.
It would destigmatize, it would open that door. I love that idea. I really do. I love the idea of workshops, having people sometimes from outside. A lot of times there are churches that I've encountered that are very apprehensive with having someone from the outside come in. But I think you need to have different perspectives, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, oh, we have someone in the church that does that already. Do you really? Or are you
Do
just saying
you?
that?
Right. And you can, and as you know, and you can vet people just like you vet people that you hire for the ministry and the TV ministry, security, whoever you vet them. Right. So whatever
Absolutely.
it is, you can vet them and choose who
Yes,
you want to work with. But
exactly.
there should be somebody in place that can help,
Exactly.
where you make, because you're not a mental health professional. Pastors and preachers are not mental
Exactly.
health professionals. So
Right, right,
unless they
right,
have gone through
right.
the schooling, that's a different
Absolutely.
story. But then even
Absolutely.
so, do you want to deal with both of everything, or do you want to just say, you know what, I'm going to take care of the spiritual stuff, and we'll have somebody here that can
Yes,
aid you with the mental health part of things that are going on in your life. And matter of fact, we're gonna
exactly.
have financial literacy workshops here too once a month.
Absolutely. That's necessary too.
Because as we give in tithes and offering, you're struggling. There are
Right,
things going on in your
right.
world, and you may not know all you know because there has been a generation of people who have just dumped their money in the church. It could have been their last, it could have been this, with no
That's
education
right.
around money, finances, anything.
That's
Right.
right.
And there is a time, of course, like we know
Yes.
you're supposed to tithe offer. So I'm not saying for people, I'm not saying you don't tithe and offer, but what I'm saying is
Hmm.
you're taking,
Yeah,
but a lot of people need the education. And a lot
exactly.
of people don't have the financial
Not at all.
literacy,
Not at all.
right? And
Mhm.
so therefore they're just doing stuff because the Bible says and this and that. We understand, right? But no context, no education surrounding it. It's like, hey, we're gonna have a financial literacy workshop. We want our congregants to make more money too, right? Because it's the more money that your congregation has, the more your building is always going to be flourishing, right?
Exactly.
And
Yes.
so
Yes.
everything runs like it becomes a well-oiled machine,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Right. But also, I'm gonna call it like it is sometimes. This is not Dr. Lori's not saying this. This is me. But just like the pharmaceutical companies, how do you make more money with if people aren't sick?
Mm.
If people feel like they're more healed and things like that in the church, mentally and
Mm.
emotionally,
Wow.
you might feel like who's gonna come here, right?
Wow.
Or who's gonna I might look because people feel good and healed, they're gonna leave, right?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like
Wow.
you should want your people to be more healed. And the thing is, trauma happens all the time. So there's gonna be something new that's gonna pop up. So you
There's
shouldn't
going
be
to be
afraid of it.
something.
But I think
Exactly.
sometimes if you're always needing God, that means every Sunday you're gonna be there because you're gonna feel like you
Exactly.
always need God. But the thing
Right.
about it is it shouldn't be based on like having congregants shouldn't be based on trauma.
No.
It should
No, it should
be
not.
because they want to be there to have a relationship with God,
Exactly.
right? But I
Exactly.
feel like a lot of times it's like people are going through so many different things in life
Yeah.
that they're going there
Yeah.
for God for something. I just need something. I just need a
Absolutely.
miracle. I need something. This that's going on. That's going on. This is going on. That's going on.
Yeah.
So it's a ever living cycle.
It is. It is. And it becomes almost like what it can become is that people are focusing their topics of ministry on people who are struggling, downtrodden, dealing with different forms of trauma. And then that's all that the focus is. And so it's giving them, like you said, something that's going to get them through that day, make you feel good, but then you're going to need me next week because I left you just enough to get you through the day that you have to come.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to be able to give people equipment, tools that they can use to get themselves out of that struggle, out of
Mm-hmm.
trauma, out of whatever it is that is binding them or holding them back from reaching their full potential. Um,
Mm-hmm. And how amazing would it be to have a congregation for mostly full of people who just want to be there because they love God,
yes,
right? And not because they're going through so much trauma and
exactly.
hell, but just because, you know what? I'm here because I just want to be under his presence. Or I just want
Absolutely.
to and I just want to worship God and do this.
Absolutely.
But a lot of it
Absolutely.
is trauma,
Yeah.
things going on,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's like I'm desperate. I got to
Yes.
be here. I'm desperate. I got to be here,
Exactly. Exactly.
right? And it's just like, oof,
Yeah.
what would the church look like if you had a lot more healthy and healed individuals, right, who are financially sound,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right. It's very interesting,
Absolutely.
the dynamic of all of it. Um,
Absolutely. Yes.
and like we talked about earlier, people are grieving things a lot. What is your in your of course I always say in your advanced expertise, um, where would you say somebody needs to start their healing process with grieving
Mhm.
in general? Because I like I said, people grieve a lot of different things. I don't think they know,
Right.
right? Especially the I should be here,
Mm.
right? And I'm not. I should be higher than what I am. I should have this by now. I should be married by now. I'm not. I should be pregnant by now. I'm not. I should be the vice president of my department right now. I'm
Right.
not, right? And
Right.
I am upset. I'm angry, and my life is really not in the place of where I thought it would be. And I'm grieving that, which makes people angry,
Mm-hmm.
upset,
Hmm.
right? And they're living in a place, right, of chronic disappointment,
Yes.
right? How do people begin to deal with that?
I think that first owning that emotion,
Mm,
owning their feelings, emotions are very situational and they fluctuate. So the person can go from angry to sad, um, and then feel, that those can become greater symptoms of something more like
mm,
depression or anxiety. So I think owning that, what am I feeling? What is this? It doesn't feel good.
mm,
Because I think what happens a lot of times, people feel those emotions and they begin to become complacent and thinking this is how I should feel. And this
uh,
is how I'm going to feel. So they
mm,
normalize it.
mm.
Angry all the time is not healthy. And it should not be anyone's norm.
No.
Being angry, being, emotionally um dysregulated, not being able to regulate your own emotions and being able to calm yourself down, that's not healthy. And so realizing that that's not healthy, I think that's the first place to start, or realizing that being chronically sad, crying every day when you think about where you are in life or where you should be in life or who left you or what happened to you or whatever the loss may be, whatever that may be, realizing that something feels unhealthy about what I'm feeling at this moment.
Mm,
Doesn't seem or feel right about this. That's the
mm,
first step because I think that you jumping from this happened to me to I'm going to see a therapist, I don't think there's a place in between. I don't think it just goes from this happened, I'm going to therapy immediately. There's something that happens, and I think it's tied to emotion and how I feel.
mm,
That's often how people are triggered to enter into counseling because something is not feeling right. So that
mm,
would be for me, I would think stage one.
Mm.
Owning that emotion, really sitting down with yourself again in order to own the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
We have to
Mm-hmm.
have silent time. We have to be
Mm-hmm.
alone and be comfortable with being alone so that we can really begin to see what is going on within ourselves.
Mm.
When you
I
have
love
people
that.
around you, you have noise, you have busyness, you have all these things distracting you. You don't have an opportunity to really sit down and own what's happening right now. So I
Absolutely.
think that that's important first.
I love that. And I appreciate that. Um, in so women, right? And I think we'll get to men in a second, but
Yes,
women. So I know you said, you went through things, you're a perfectionist, you like things a certain way. I think a lot of women can relate to that, right?
yeah,
Their way is always the best way to
that's
do
right.
certain
So we
things, right?
believe.
Yeah, um, just it is what it is, right?
Right,
Like,
right,
a lot of
absolutely.
women have um that mindset, right? And honestly, I think a lot of women are great because they go to therapy. Like a lot of women are going to therapy a lot.
Yes,
What
absolutely.
some therapists have told me, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but speaking of other therapists, they've told me where they lose women
Hmm.
in therapy is
Hmm.
never normally during individual counseling.
Yes,
It's through couples and marital counseling
yes.
when the mirror is being put to their
Yes,
face, right?
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that speaks to a lot of how people frame, I think sometimes how women frame therapy, especially
Mhm.
with couples,
Yes.
it's I'm taking you to therapy.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
bringing you out to the shed.
You need
And
help.
and, and the therapist is going to be on you.
Yes.
And then you wonder why men don't want to go, right?
Yes.
But it's I'm going to show you,
Yes.
right? And which goes along to that
Mhm.
thing of I'm a perfectionist.
Mhm.
Everything that I do is the right way,
Yes.
right? I have things that I do and the reasons why I do this, then that, and the way that right?
Yes.
There's a lot of I in that,
That's right.
right? So in again, your advanced expertise, um, for the help women, I think, in their journey with their mental health, right? Because sometimes I feel like sometimes women aren't good to themselves either, right? And we don't, and like, don't worry, ladies, we gonna get to men in a second. I'm always both. I get
Equal
both.
opportunity.
I'm equal opportunity. I get both, right?
Right.
So where do you see the opportunity for women is for growth when it comes to this particular area of, what I do is always the best, right? And that also brings that when things don't work out,
Yeah.
it's I'm a failure. I'm this and I didn't choose the right one, or I didn't make the right move over here in my career,
Right.
or even turmoil in the relationship. It's
Yeah.
it's it's I am, this is if you would have did the way I did it, then it wouldn't have been a problem. A lot
Right.
of things go on, right, with
That's
the
right.
eyes
Yeah.
and the perfectionism.
Mhm.
In your place in life, and
Mhm.
not saying that you have it 100% all together, but how can you help women kind of change this kind of mindset?
Right. Tough one. That's a tough one because it is very complex depending on the individual. But I would think
Mm-hmm.
speaking generally, I think recognizing that none of us are perfect. There's no
Mm-hmm.
man, woman, child, animal.
Mm-hmm.
Not one of us is perfect on this earth. If we were perfect, we probably wouldn't be here because
Mm-hmm.
life is about learning lessons. That's what, at least what I've learned. It's about learning lessons. It's about growing. If you're not growing, I don't think you're living. If you're not learning, I don't think you're living. You're just being, you're just here. So I think, one of the things I try to share with others is that you're not perfect. And
Mm-hmm.
let's just embrace that right here.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had to accept that for myself, that I'm not perfect, that I'm always going to be learning. I tell my students this all the time. I don't know everything. I'm very honest with them. I don't know everything. There are some questions they ask me where, I have to come back to you because I don't have the answer. I don't know everything. I don't have it 100% together, and that's okay. I think being okay with not being perfect, not having it all 100% together
Mm-hmm.
is being a human being. being a
Mm,
normal human being.
mm,
I think when people think the opposite, they think that they're superhuman. You would have to be.
mm-hmm,
And that's just unrealistic and it's unattainable.
mm, mm,
So recognizing that you're not going to be perfect and also recognizing that perfection is unattainable. It's never happening. I think that can help, at least for me, it helped me deconstruct. What am I
mm-hmm,
shooting for perfection if I'll never reach it?
mm, mm,
You can strive to be better. You can
mm.
strive to be great, and that's okay. But looking for perfection 100% of the time will always leave you without the
Any
end result.
grace. I feel
Yeah.
like it leaves you without any grace too.
Yeah.
And how
Absolutely.
does that affect our relationship also?
The act of
Or the, well, how
perfectionism.
does that mindset of always being a perfectionist in a relationship
Yeah.
with a guy,
Yeah.
obviously, um, how does that affect the relationship? Because I find these dynamics sometimes when I speak to couples or, you
Yeah.
know, it's a lot of this, like, especially when it comes to things around the house. It's like, what I do it the best. I'm the goat.
Yes.
I do everything. You do with this
Yes.
way or else, right?
Mm.
Right. Um, and then when there's issues and problems, like I said, that mindset, I'm taking you out to the shed and I'm taking you to the therapist and we're gonna do
Yeah.
couple therapy because you need fixing.
Absolutely.
Right? How does this kind of destroy a relationship?
Well, I think you hit it on the head. It will
Mm,
destroy. You answered it right
every time.
there.
Tell
It,
me.
yeah, you hit it right on the head. It will destroy a relationship because what's going to happen, I'll speak from the women and then we'll throw it on you for the
Yeah.
men. But for the woman who is creating these expectations again that are
Mm.
attainable, yes, it's one thing to be tidy, to want things a certain way. Nothing wrong with that. I'm like that myself with my husband. And
I
it's
wouldn't think that. Yeah. Yeah. You like that? Oh, come on.
but I've learned to accept that he will do certain things in his time, just like I do things in my time. And there are
Mm,
things that he might ask that ask for me to do that I'll do it when I get ready to do it. I have to,
mm,
as you said, have grace and show
mm-hmm.
it to him because it's shown to me. But I think when women are those expectations, when they're not met and they get angry and begin to tear apart their spouse or their partner and break him down because of the fact that this isn't done the way that I want it to, that's only going to be okay for so long.
Right.
And eventually, what might happen is he's going to walk away
Mm,
because who wants to be beaten down because of standards that someone else has set? I also think it's important to have that conversation very early on, about your personality traits begin to emerge through relationships anyway. So it's going to be revealed, even if you try to
mm-hmm.
hide that part of you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to talk about expectations, even
Mm,
if you're going to live together, just different standards that you have for your life and goals and things like that. It's important to have a conversation so that each of you are going into this relationship, whether you're dating or you're getting married, you're going into it with your eyes wide open. Uh,
mm,
but I think it can, if those standards are so high and unattainable for anyone, and you're expecting him to do and be all of these things that you've imagined, that's eventually going to fall apart. Yeah.
mm, mm. And the interesting thing about men is some of them won't walk away.
Yes.
They will just die in the
There
relationship.
you go. But that's where infidelity and that's when other things begin to happen
Mm,
in the relationship. I don't want to say 100% of the time, but
right.
a lot of times when people do stay, they emotionally have left.
Mm-hmm.
That disconnect can cause them to form relationships with other people because they're
Mm-hmm.
looking for connection. And so
Mm,
it's very dangerous. That's not always the case. Sometimes people just do what they want to do. But like you said, when the relationship itself has kind of died, the person has died within the relationship emotionally, they're no longer there. They've
mm,
disconnected themselves. So that's something to be really careful um, for and
mm,
to look out for that when your expectations are up here and you're beginning to um, tear apart that other person that you're in a relationship with because they're not meeting your expectations, which is really unfair. I
Mm,
it will cause that relationship, that it will cause that connection to begin to diminish because people can only take that for so long, and it becomes a point of abuse, I think.
mm,
Emotional abuse, it can be.
mm-hmm. And so, and I appreciate that insight, because I think, all right, now, ladies, I know that was a little uncomfortable. All right. So now, all right, we'll take it to the men now, right? Your favorite topic, we'll take it to the men, right? So, uh, what I feel like when it comes to men,
Mhm.
and you can ask me any question you want. You the doctor. You can ask me any question you want.
Okay.
I always say men's first introduction to therapy shouldn't be couple or marital therapy
Agreed. I
because
agree.
normally it's what I just said it was. I'm
Agreed.
taking you out, and therapist is going to show you a thing or two, and it's like, and if you don't get out my face, right, like they gonna tell me what, right, like, and then it becomes that thing, right, where I'm already coming into it negatively,
Exactly.
right?
Mhm.
Like it's pretty much going to be you and her against me, or you and him against me, and so
Exactly.
I'm already coming with my gloves up,
Exactly.
right? And so I would say men should begin as individual therapy, so you should know what it should look like and sound
Mhm.
like, so that
Mhm.
when you're in these situations
Yeah.
with your significant other, you know that if it is like that, that's not the therapy for you. That's not the
E-
therapist for you.
Exactly.
And so, but on the flip side, I feel like sometimes men feel like they don't need therapy, right?
Yeah.
So as where women's, I think pride and ego goes with the relationship
Yeah.
therapy, where they just go, oh, you wrong. I ain't never wrong. It's gonna be you. I
Yeah.
think for on the individual side, is men are like, nah, I'm good, right? Men are always good,
Mhm.
and men will I'm good themselves to death
Yeah.
in a lot of times. When you
Mhm.
look at suicide rates and things like that,
Yeah.
um, there's been a thing, and there's been an increase of men going to therapy, so which is great.
Yeah.
Um, but there's always been a stigma with men too when it comes to getting help.
Yeah.
We can't get sometimes men to go to a physical doctor, medical doctor, right? I'm
Exactly.
good. Your wrist is hanging off. No, it's not. I'm good. I'm just gonna drink some ginger ale and I'm gonna call it a day, right? Like it's innate, right?
That's
With like to
true.
always be like, black people and black listen, ginger ale cure black people for everything.
Hmm.
Whatever it is, I'm just gonna have me a little bit of ginger ale and go to sleep. Like it's ridiculous, but this is
Yeah.
what it is, right?
Yes.
In But I think I think if men will understand, if you have a good therapist,
Right.
can help you one individually, but also help you in relationally as well.
That's right.
And so I'll turn it over to you since this the ladies section. This is this is your time. Is ask me what other questions you want about men in
Okay.
therapy or men in
Yeah.
relationship. I'm here to
I
answer
do have
any.
a question though.
Yes.
So the comment I made earlier about how if a man is broken down enough
Mm-hmm.
by, within the relationship, how it could lead to infidelity.
Yeah.
That's also of my assumption of what I have seen, things like that. Do you think that that is sometimes the case because of this expectation that has been set for him by his
Mm-hmm.
partner, spouse, whomever,
Mm-hmm.
getting tired of trying to meet that eventually can cause one to just separate emotionally? Is that?
Yeah, I think when it comes to men and rejection, one, men are used to being rejected a lot.
Yeah.
Let's get that. From when you're young, you're taught to, go out and, go hunt for, women,
Right.
and like you're the man, so you need to go chase and do other stuff,
Right.
and you go out and when you're younger, you go to the clubs, like, hey, hey, and it's like, no, all right, cool. Right.
Right.
And it continues to happen, right?
Right.
But then
Right.
also you go on a corporate America a lot of times.
Hmm.
Re
Yes.
Rejection,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
Happy wife, happy life. Rejection, right? Your happiness doesn't mean anything, right? Your expectations of like, hey, I'm going through this. Nobody cares.
That's right.
Just get it done.
That's
right?
right.
When you listen to men a lot, it's why do I say anything? Why do I need to say anything? Because nobody cares
Mm.
to begin with, right? So a lot of times men come in with a preconceived notion that you as the girlfriend or wife don't care anyway. You just want to see results. The
Right.
only person who ever cared
Hmm.
is his mother,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Only person that cares about his happiness, if you have a healthy,
Yes.
parent
Yes. Sure.
relationship, is
Sure.
his mother,
Absolutely.
right?
That's true.
Unconditionally, right? So
Hmm.
that's why you say, well, why do men are so up under their mother? That's the only person who
Yeah.
ever cared
Hmm.
about their happiness
Hmm.
in life,
Hmm.
like unconditionally,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not saying that there needs to be mama's boys. I'm not saying that. I'm saying a lot of times that was the only person. And people are, and then women, why don't you go be with them, be with your mama then? And it's just like you don't
Hmm.
even get it, right? Like you don't get that sometimes that's his only safe place,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? A lot of times when men don't feel safe, and people say, well, why would you marry a person you don't feel safe with? A lot of people aren't safe.
Yes.
A lot of people aren't even safe with themselves, right?
Exactly.
So how are they
That's
going to be safe
right.
for somebody else, right?
Exactly.
And
That's so,
so I think, and there's never an excuse for infidelity or anything like that. But
yeah.
sometimes I think with men, especially once they've been broken down,
Hmm.
right? Especially by the person that they've tried to open up a little bit with,
Yes.
and sometimes what they opened up with is being used back at them as a weapon.
Absolutely.
It's over after that.
Yeah.
There is no, it's shut down. They
Yes.
might stay in the relationship and be cool, but they'll never open up again.
Ab-
Everything is gonna be I'm good.
yeah.
I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good. And you know where men sometimes go to talk?
Hmm.
Strip clubs.
That's true.
I was flabbergasted. I'm in my 20s, Dr. Lori. I'm in my 20s. Sometimes I frequent a place, when I'm in my early 20s,
Right.
and,
Right.
and I would be flabbergasted I would see men now
Yeah.
my age, Jesus,
Right.
right? um, right? Having conversation, right?
Wow.
In my 20s, I'm there for other things. I'm there for fun. I'm there for a good time.
Right.
But what I'm looking at is I see older gentlemen there just having a conversation. And
Yeah.
then when I would ask, because even at that age, I was curious. I
You're
said, what?
inquisitive. Yes.
I was like, I said, I would ask, I said, why are they talking? Like, why are they just sitting there talking?
Yes.
And the person would say, oh, I make more money
Mm.
with them.
Mm.
I don't gotta, there's no dancing, no nothing.
Mhm.
They just want somebody to talk to them. They want
Wow.
somebody to listen to their problems. They want somebody to just, you know, stroke their hair or
Yeah.
whatever and just say, oh, listen, it's gonna be okay, this and that and the third, it's gonna
Wow.
be all right. It's gonna be, this, that, and the third. They go there to have intimacy and
Yeah.
not in a physical form, but
No.
they just want to be heard, right? So they're giving money to people, and a lot of them will have wedding rings on, and they would be giving money to these dancers,
Yes.
right? And
Mm.
using them as therapy,
That's
right?
what that
I,
sounds like.
because also going to therapy, a little taboo, right? Especially we talking, 20, 15, 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that was definitely a little bit more taboo then, right?
Absolutely.
So it's like where can I go? I don't want to tell my boys, you know what I mean? I don't want to tell my boys, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna go out by myself,
Yeah.
tell the wife I'm working late. I'm gonna go
Yes.
out by myself and just unload on someone who's beautiful, that's
Yeah.
of the opposite sex,
Yeah.
that would just listen to me for a little bit, right? And I was flabbergasted at that point because I'm young, testosterone real high, and I'm
Yeah.
like, that ain't what I'm here for,
Right.
right? But I was flabbergasted at what they were telling me,
Yeah.
and now as I've grown,
Hmm.
right, and as I've experienced things, I'm
Yeah.
like, that's what they were talking about.
Yep. Wow.
Wow,
Yes.
that's why, right? I used to have executives that I used to work with stay there. I'm like, hey, are you still here?
Yes.
Rather be here than home.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, right. At 25, and they're like 40, 45, and they married with kids. And they're like, yeah, I'm working late, man. I gotta.
Wow.
This is where I'm gonna be. And I'm like, dang. Now for me, a lot of times I didn't get it because I watched my parents be married for 43 years and
Yes.
have a healthy, for the most part, healthy relationship and this and
Yes.
that. So I'm like, why wouldn't you want to be home? I see my dad
Exactly.
home. Like, why wouldn't you want to be home? Like, but
Exactly.
everybody's situation is very different.
That's right.
In learning about more relationships,
Yeah,
being even myself in a
exactly.
marriage that just wasn't good, right? To
Right.
where I was like, yo, I get it. Like
Wow.
I finally have reached a place where I'm like, oh, I get what they oh, I
Yeah,
get it. Right. Where
absolutely.
like I'm sitting in
Absolutely.
my car for 15 minutes before I hit the door. Right.
Mm.
Oh, I get it.
Mm.
Oh, right. Like, and you
Yeah.
start to see like, oh man, like I understand what happens. And
Wow. That's insane.
I think with men sometimes when they say like they're simple creatures, they are,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And sometimes it's like, man, as soon as I hit the door, I already know what's about to happen.
Yes.
Man, it's gonna be and
Right.
it's gonna be like, I could do overtime and come home and she sleep. Thank God.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's not a
You're right.
peaceful place,
That's right.
right?
Right.
It's not a peaceful atmosphere, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
then if it's not a peaceful atmosphere, the men get blamed for that too. Well, that's the atmosphere
Right.
you created. You
You're
did
right.
this. And it's just like,
Exactly.
so if when I tell you my gripes or if I tell you my things that even if I don't like about the relationship,
Yes.
you don't address that. You
Exactly.
say automatically, well, since you didn't like that, well, I didn't like this.
Right. Tick for
So
tat.
now where
Hmm.
are we? We're not
Yeah.
really addressing any kind of problems or
Yeah.
resolutions about how I feel. You
Yeah.
immediately flip and say, well, you did this. And it's just like, you know what? So why do I bother
Right.
speaking?
Exactly.
So since it's happy wife, happy life, you don't care anyway. So I'm just gonna just go, you know what? Fine. I'm cool. Right. And then next thing you know, Janelle from accounting, you
Yes.
know, is y'all start, because you at work most of the time, then y'all start kicking
Exactly.
it, and y'all start
Yep.
talking, and then you realize, oh, I can talk to this person.
Hmm. That's right.
And then you end up, even if you don't physically cheat, but you end up emotionally cheating,
That's right.
or emotionally like, oh, like it it just goes from there, right?
Exactly.
And like I
Yes.
said, because I had to make a disclaimer, I'm not saying cheating is okay,
Right.
but sometimes this is how things sometimes happen. Oh, my wife
Right.
wants me to go to therapy. Why? Because
Right.
I'm the problem.
I'm the
Always.
problem. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right? So I gotta sit here and just know that this is why I'm in therapy because we're not actually looking for a resolution. We're looking for crucifixion.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's just like, I'm not interested.
Exactly.
Right? So I think a lot of times, men check out, I think, way, and men have emotions too.
They sure
We
do.
seem to think that they
Absolutely.
don't, right?
Absolutely.
They just need a safe place to land.
They do. And not feel emasculated in the process.
Right. And because that's the one ticket that's going to be like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Even if I stay with you 30 years, I'm
Yeah.
never going to open up to you like that ever again
Yeah.
because you'll use it against me. If I tell
Absolutely.
you what an embarrassing moment of mine
Yeah.
in an argument, you'll use it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when I
Dangerous.
told you it was in confidence, when I told you it was supposed to be a safe place,
That's right.
why are we bringing this up if we get into an argument? That
Mm.
is, I'm good. Now I'm good.
Yeah.
So now it becomes, I'm just gonna become, you can become very docile, right? Like you ever seen like a zoo animal versus somebody who's in the wild,
Exactly.
right?
Big
They
difference.
tranquilize. They're just
Hmm.
not, you
That's
know, they're not
that's
living actively and free,
exactly.
right? And man, sometimes they die early, heart attack, this, that, things going on, cancer, right?
Mhm.
Aneurysm, blood clots, all
Mhm.
kinds of stuff. The stuff that they don't let out stays here.
Exactly.
And that's why I say
Absolutely.
individual therapy is key for a man way before couples therapy, way before premarital, way
That's
before marriage counseling. Individual therapy for men to me is a non-negotiable. It's
agreed.
a non-negotiable for men, and I challenge men to get into therapy because
Absolutely.
honestly, you need it. Because even as we're going through things in life to have a safe place to land, like a therapist,
Yes.
and to actually now therapy is not going to be sunshines and rainbows. I'm trying to
No.
explain.
No.
If you have a good one, like
Yeah.
Dr. Lori, they're going to challenge you. They're going to challenge you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? They're going to challenge how you think,
Yeah.
right? They're going to challenge how you process things. They're going to challenge how you communicate things, which
Hmm.
actually helps in relationships,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
In how you so that you don't explode and or bleed all over your partner or this or that, right?
Yeah.
That's why I say both people should be in therapy. If you're in a relationship, both parties should be in therapy actively,
That's right.
right? So that you two can come together and
Hmm.
have like real functional conversations,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
Where it's healthy, where I can now come to you without exploding. And not even that
Exactly.
you did anything, but just the fact that I got stuff on me. And now the
Exactly.
easiest person to explode on is the person you live with, it's the
That's it.
person closest to you.
They're
And
always
oh,
there.
they'll forgive me, they'll understand. That
Yeah.
gets old,
It does. It does. Absolutely.
right? It's
Agreed.
not fair, right, for me to come home and it's like World War III. I'm exploding all over the place because
Hmm.
she'll be okay. She knows my heart. All
Yeah.
of the things people say, oh, she
Yeah.
knows my heart. And so, it's okay. Right. She'll forgive me. I'll apologize later.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's where sometimes I think for men, being able to unload these things in a healthy place, right? Because even if you go to a strip club and you talk to a stripper and you put the money, they're not really giving you any practical advice. You feel
No.
good.
Yes.
You get that boost of adrenaline. You go
Exactly.
home and you feel a little lighter for sure.
Right. Right.
But they're not challenging you to even change your own behavior,
No, they're not giving you any
right?
tools to work with.
Nothing to. They're not giving you any tools. They're just taking your money,
No.
right? So at least a therapist will take your money but give you tools, right?
Exactly.
Like
Yes.
that's
Yes.
that's where it should be. It's just like you go
That's
to
right.
school, they take your money, they give you
That's right.
tools.
That's right.
Sometimes, for the
Exactly.
most part, depending on what you major in, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, and I think that's where for men, I think that therapy is a non-negotiable. It teaches you even when you grieve heaviness, right?
Right.
Because men go through things that have nothing to do with their partner.
Yeah.
The plight of feeling not enough, I
Yeah.
think is something that men deal with a lot. I
Hmm.
don't know if you've experienced this in your walks in therapy with men,
Yes.
but
Yes.
it's that feeling of not enough
Yeah.
will kill a man.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh, yes.
Like
Yes. That can be very dangerous. Very
it
dangerous.
just like I'm not enough.
Yeah.
I'm letting my mom down. I'm
Hmm.
letting my girlfriend down. I'm letting my wife down.
Yeah.
I'm letting my kids down. I just got laid off. Got no money.
Yeah.
My savings account is dwindling. I don't.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you just don't feel a lot. Like you just like man. I like you start to become cold. Like you just like I'm not the person who I said I was.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a tough place to be for men.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
Different plights for men and women, but tough for both.
Sure.
But I think women do a really great job of getting individual help more.
Absolutely. Agreed.
And I commend them for that.
Yes.
Um, because it's great, right? Um, but for men, I think it's very essential.
I think so too. And I think
Um,
what you're saying, hopefully it will reach, someone out there, a man out there who's maybe struggling with exactly what we're talking about and needs that encouragement that it's okay. There is nothing wrong with seeing someone. You need that objective opinion or objective perspective. Um, because you're not going to get that from your spouse or your family member or your friend. You need someone completely removed from the situation who can give you some constructive feedback,
mhm,
help you maybe see things from a different perspective yourself, and then
mhm.
work towards gaining these tools to move forward. Yeah.
And I think, if I'm being honest,
Mhm.
if women were to be a fly on the wall
Mhm.
of a therapy session with their significant other,
Mm,
I think what they would hear would shock them and
absolutely.
scare them at the same time.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think women really know what their spouses are dealing with internally.
There are depths to it.
There's some deep things and deep waters there that if we're
Mhm.
being open, and I mean open and completely vulnerable, if a man is really open and vulnerable with that therapist,
Mhm.
and I think this is where couple counseling, I think when it's done the right way,
Yes.
when a man really opens up and shares how he feels, even
Yes.
about his spouse or about life,
Yes.
I think the women are very shocked, scared, and like, how didn't I see this?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
It's in I always because men the reason why men don't want to open up a lot because they don't want to lose that Superman title.
That's right. That's right.
They don't want to lose that. They
Hmm.
always want their person to see them as Superman, as
Exactly.
the strong individual
Hmm.
who can, take care of the family,
That's right.
right? At the flip side of that, I don't think men understand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong,
Mhm.
please. I don't think men understand that women would rather have him in the house than have a heart attack or die early. I'd
Absolutely.
rather have you here with
Absolutely.
me and
Hmm.
the family
Hmm.
than
Yeah.
to you leave this earth early
Absolutely.
trying to die a hero,
Hmm. Hmm. Agreed.
right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes there's that misconception of between the two parties.
Right.
Um, and I do think there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings and confusion between men and women.
Yes.
And
I think so too.
but we need each other.
Yeah. And there need to be open conversations similar to what we're having now that will create dialogue, conversation surrounding it, so that it's not so taboo,
Right.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that,
And sometimes I just wonder if a man does open up, like really open up
hmm.
to their spouse. I mean, really.
Yeah,
It's one thing to say I had a bad day.
right,
I'm talking about really open up.
right.
I wonder, would women look at them differently?
Mm.
Would that title of Superman be taken away?
Or would it be enhanced?
Or
Because
would
of
it
the
be enhanced?
vulnerability. Yeah, either or.
Right.
It
And
could go
and
either
there's a
way.
right, and there's a level of fear
Hmm.
that comes with if I open up, because some
Hmm.
men have tried,
Yes.
and I've seen it. They've said I tried, and the person lost respect for me. They thought I was weak. They started talking to them a little different.
Yes. Yes.
And so why do I want to put myself in that position? Right.
Right.
And I feel like if a lot of more people toned down the arrogance
Yeah.
and turned up the grace, I think a lot of relationships would be a lot more healthier.
I think so too.
Right. I think if
Mhm.
men tried to understand a woman's plight when it comes to even, launching a business, a career, or the struggles of having a child,
Mhm.
understanding postpartum and how that effects have on a woman's body, mind, and
Yeah,
how long postpartum can last in a woman,
absolutely.
then I
Yes.
think you would have a lot more, grace for women in
Right.
after they have the kid. Because like, oh, after that they have to get, they're good, and
Yeah,
it's like, nah, they might not be good. They
absolutely.
might not be good at all, and
Not
you're
at all.
sitting here and you have no understanding of what she's going through,
Exactly. Absolutely.
right? And because she may
Absolutely.
not even understand what she's experiencing and what's going through, depending on the severity of postpartum.
Exactly.
I've done research on postpartum. I've read
Yes.
about postpartum. I've
Yes.
talked to
Which
many
is
women
great.
about postpartum,
Yes.
right? It's
Good.
a different thing.
It
It
is.
is a different experience,
Absolutely.
right? I've talked to therapists about perinatal things,
Yes, that's
right?
good.
Who a therapist who specializes in perinatal. I'm trying to explain.
Yes.
People don't understand.
They don't. They don't. There's
And
so much
if
that goes with that.
there's too much that goes along with it. So
Yeah.
again, I think if women try to understand the plight of men and what they go through, and a
Yes.
lot of times when people use their own experiences, oh, they didn't deliver in 9 months, they didn't deliver a baby. I don't really care about try delivering a baby for 9 months. That's difficult.
Exactly. Yes.
That may be true, but now you're discrediting his plight of what he's saying that he's struggling with
That's right.
to
Yes.
build up your thing because I went through 9 months of labor and tried doing that. That's hard. And it's like, okay.
Mhm.
So you know what?
Yeah, it's
I gotta say
invalidating.
anything.
It's very invalidating of someone else's experience. And I think that that's a huge problem too, that it's easy to minimize what someone else's pain. Just because we haven't walked in their shoes, it's real for them. And so we have to acknowledge,
Acknowledge that part.
they may not need our validation that it's real, but we need to acknowledge and not invalidate what they've been through.
Absolutely. And I guess I do wish more of us would communicate, but I also feel like a lot of us don't know how,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah,
that's where I feel therapy can help people
that's right.
like
Yeah.
navigate these waters,
Yeah.
right?
I
And
think
it could be
so.
simple things where a therapist is like, well, let me tell you, well, let me explain,
Yes.
right? Well, let me flip it on you, or like, let me just, and then you sit there like, oh,
Yes.
I didn't think about that. Thank you,
Exactly. Yes.
right? Versus you always thinking you're right about how you communicate or lack of,
Hmm.
right? And I'm always open and honest about my stuff. I think when I was younger, I think I always was a good communicator and listener.
Right.
What
That's
I
good.
wasn't good at
Uh-huh.
was if I felt that you slighted me in a way I didn't deserve, or
Hmm.
if you took something out of me and it
Hmm.
came from left field, and I'm like,
Hmm.
oh,
Yes.
right. So in my mind now, I'm like, oh, you want smoke?
Right.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
bring the whole fire,
Yes.
right? This is what you wanted. So like
Yeah.
that was my thing. Well, this is what you wanted. So
Yes.
now you're getting what you asked
You
for,
get it. Exactly.
right? It's not right.
Hmm.
Now I'm older, so now I understand a lot about mental health.
Yes.
Not you, not your level, but I
Yes.
understand a little
No,
bit,
no,
right?
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so I'm just like, oh, that was not about me.
That's right. But
That ain't even about me.
how awesome is it that how awesome, I'll say it this way, to get to that point of being able to say, this is a you issue, not a me issue. Because
Right.
when you don't take it personal, why this person's treating you a certain way, you know that you didn't do anything to this individual.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can take this off of me and throw that right back on you because that has nothing to do
Right.
with me.
And I also like to find the root causes of problems now.
Yes.
Before I just wanted look, we,
Hmm.
mm-mm, I couldn't do it.
Yes.
Like your root cause
Yes.
ain't my problem now. Now
That's
I
right.
want Now you took me to a place. Now I just want what you want, right?
Right. Right.
And
Absolutely.
but now I'm more like, well, what's the root cause of this?
Hmm. Hmm.
It and what are you struggling with,
Hmm.
right? Because this really is not you.
No.
Like you're different, right? So
Yeah.
this isn't you. So
Yeah.
why are you acting this way? Why are you this? And then normally what you'll get now is, oh, you know what? I'm sorry.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know what? You're right. I'm
Right.
sorry. This is happening. This is going on. That's
Right.
going on.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. I just in my
Absolutely.
head, I got things going on. I'm triggered because something
Yeah.
happened from this, from that, from this,
Yeah.
from that, and you like
Now you
now you're talking about resolution. Now you're talking about solutions.
exactly.
Now you're talking about different conversation versus me.
Exactly.
If you pour fire on me, I'm
Hmm.
dousing everything with gasoline, and everything's
Right.
going to every fire
Right.
everywhere, right? And
Absolutely.
now we're not talking about solution. Now we're just adding on fire on top of fire on and the fire and what
Exactly.
happens to wildfires
It's absolutely, but I think
spreads it.
it's huge for you to be able to get to a place of acknowledging, I need to understand this person's core issue a little bit more so that I can, not take it personal or not internalize what how they're treating me. And then for the person to open up and say, you know what, sorry, this is what's happening. For that person
Mm-hmm.
to be able to do that, there are a couple steps you just said that I think is like the next level of being able to communicate because you first initiating, I'm not going to take it personal. I need to know what's going on. Asking
Mm-hmm.
the person for them to think enough to actually want to sit there and explain, this is what's happening. I think that's a huge piece of communication that's healthy versus the
Right.
person who cuts the individual off because they mistreated them and or the person who initiates like you and says what's really going on and the
Mm-hmm.
person cuts that person off because I don't need to explain anything to you. I'm not, and kind of going there with them and not
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging that there's a core issue. That's how I
Right.
think you know problems just continue to exacerbate when people don't first acknowledge that there is something going on at the root and
Mm-hmm.
being open to saying, I may not be able to get into it completely with you right now, but there's some stuff I'm dealing with. Being able to say that is
Mm.
opening a door right there.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think it took a lot of, I think, reflection within myself,
Mm.
um, because I used to be like, man, like, why? Okay, like, why do I do this? Like, in
Yeah.
terms of like, I know why I
Yes.
react that way
Yes.
because I felt like, hey, listen, I didn't, what did I do?
Yes.
Right? Like, why did,
Hmm. Hmm.
I didn't, I'm just existing right now. Like, why did you felt the
Right.
need to say certain things or snap at me or
Exactly.
do this or say that?
Exactly. Yes.
But for me, it was almost like and then I had to realize this is a problem
Yes.
within me
Sure.
where I was like, I almost enjoyed like my response.
Yes.
Like, I was like, oh, so you took it here. I
Hmm.
wasn't at Michelle Obama's level where they go low, we go high type of thing. No, when you
Absolutely.
go low, I go to
That's a tough
basically
one.
I go down like
That's not always
down,
easy.
right? Like
Yeah.
and if that's where you want to go, oh, I
Yeah.
can go lower.
We can
Let's
go there.
go. Right? I can do it.
Absolutely.
And why do you think
Yeah.
that's okay to do that to me? I feel like Denzel, oh, you think you can do this to me? Like that's how I
Yeah.
felt.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, you think you can do this to me? What did I do to
Exactly.
you? Because I was never a person, I prided myself, and this is how I know it wasn't right. I
Mhm.
prided myself on never starting a fight, but I prided myself on finishing it.
Mm. Wow.
Meaning, I ain't gonna start it.
Wow.
Really scorch earth and finish it,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right? And never in a physical way,
Yeah.
like verbal
Absolutely.
way. Um, and then I was like, at some point after learning more, reading more,
Yes.
learning more,
Yes.
talking more, therapy, learning more about people and emotional intelligence and
Yes.
mental health, and learning about people and traumas and triggers
Yes.
and all of these things,
Yes.
I was like, oh, wait a minute. This isn't a lot of this stuff was probably never a me thing.
Exactly.
It was a them thing.
That's right.
And I never really stopped to try to figure out what's going on. Right.
Right.
Like it was just more reactionary.
Yes.
Right. I mean,
Hmm.
I would ask you like what's happening, but
Right.
normally people nothing, this and that, and then I'm like, okay, cool. Now that I
Right.
asked that one time, now I got the green light to
Exactly.
now scorch earth. And
Exactly.
now when I do that, there's more
Mhm.
problems now on top of problems now on top of problems. Because now we're not arguing about what you said. We're arguing about my response to what you said. And it's going off into a bunch of different
Absolutely.
windows. Like you're just like, how
Absolutely.
did we get here? Right.
Getting out of
So
control.
like a wildfire. It's just
Yes.
spreading.
Yes.
And you're like,
Yes.
now we're talking about 10 different things.
Hmm.
What is going on? So now it's like, after learning a lot about people and behavior and triggers, trauma,
Hmm.
um, emotional intelligence, capacity,
Yes.
right? People's capacity is very different than yours and things like that. And
Absolutely.
grief and learning so much about, I've read so much, I learned so much about grief and how that
Yes.
affects people up here and
Yes.
then and how people bleed on other people.
That's
Once
right.
I started to really deep dive and go down a rabbit hole with this,
Hmm.
it gave me a lot of peace and grace for people. Now,
Yes.
there's still a little bit of me back there, so don't.
Exactly.
let's not get crazy, right? There's a lot of grace and a lot of
Absolutely.
understanding and a
Yes,
lot of things that I'm just like, let's have a
absolutely.
conversation. Like, what's going on? Like,
I
this
hear
is
a lot
not
of empathy,
a lot,
a lot
a
of
lot,
empathy there.
a lot of empathy, and so it has enhanced also, levels of like conflict resolution
Yes,
and things like that, where you're just
absolutely.
like, oh, like this is conflict resolution
That's
101
right.
now, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not fanning the flames here.
Yes,
We're just getting to the root of the problem, and we are
exactly.
addressing that now.
Yeah,
It's no longer about what you said to me. It's about what triggered you to say that, what's going on,
exactly.
and how can we help you at this
Exactly.
point, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's huge.
Oh,
That's
huge. It is huge. And I learned that a lot in my single season, where I told myself, if I get into another relationship,
hmm
you know, I want to do it differently in
That's right.
terms of how I respond
That's right.
to things that
Yeah,
I may find have accosted me, or certain things that I might have felt was offensive to a
absolutely.
point. I'm not a pushover by any means. So I
Yeah,
want people to, so if you see me out there, don't act like it's, I listen.
absolutely.
Strangers
Absolutely.
are a little different,
You hold your own.
this is for my relationship, and my friendships, right?
Exactly.
This ain't for
Exactly.
strangers now, right? I don't got that many cheeks to turn. So I'm just saying, God's still dealing with me
That's
with
it.
that,
Just because
right?
you've evolved doesn't mean
It ain't
that.
all the way,
That's
this is for
right.
my relationship and my family and friends. Anybody else, that's a different
That's
conversation for them,
right. That's right.
right? So, it's just learning a lot of this stuff, but that
Mhm.
takes a while, and it takes a
It
lot of
does.
information. It takes a lot of things, like, it
It
takes a
does.
lot.
It
And when
is.
you learn that people have been through so much, you
hmm
have a lot of grace
You do.
for
You do.
people,
You do. People are
right?
hurting. A lot of people are hurting out there. There's a lot of hurt people. I don't know. I can say that in so many different ways. People are hurting. There's a lot of hurt people. People, remain in their pain,
Mm.
and that creates sickness sometimes,
Ooh.
emotional and physical, because the
Mm.
mind body is very much connected, interconnected, and it works together.
Mm.
So
Wow.
that's like, I guess we'll have to spend another time
Listen,
really focusing on mind
I can do this
body.
with you for another 3 hours. Okay. I know I've taken up a lot of your time, and we're going to close. But I definitely want to
Yeah,
carry on this
that would be
conversation.
great. That would be great.
Um, because I can go. I feel like I'm on like I feel like I can, like, we can go like another 2 or 3, but I know
Exactly.
you got to get back to the family,
I
and you got things
know.
that you got to
This
do.
is good though.
Um,
Good, very good.
so for the people who don't know, the one thing I want you to explain to the audience is, tell them a little bit about, because they're gonna see Dr. Laurie slash PhD slash 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 slash
Oh
slash,
yeah.
is a lot of things. You're
Yes,
gonna see
sorry.
it.
Sorry.
Um, no, no, but tell the people, give them a little. I know that they know that you have a bachelor's, master's, PhD, but tell them
Yes.
what else you have,
Yes,
and why you so qualified out here in these streets.
I'm so sorry. I started earlier and I went on to another
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Don't
went
worry
to
about it.
another direction. So
Don't
sorry
worry
about.
about it.
But to go back, so I have a PhD in counseling specialization, marriage and family counseling. I have a LPC, which is a licensed professional counselor. I'm licensed to practice in New Jersey. That's also where my private practice is. I have an LMHC in the state of New York, licensed mental health counselor, which means I can practice in New York State also. I have a NCC, which is National Certified Counselor. That's just a national certification. I have a ACS, approved clinical supervisor, which just means I can supervise those who are entering into the field and wanting to become LPC. So I can supervise their hours. I think that's everything.
Are you
Yeah.
sure?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, AKA, what that means out there, she's super qualified to have this conversation. And if you want her on your stage, the price has gone up. So, understand is levels to this thing. She has these certifications and these licenses and these degrees for a reason,
Yeah.
and the price is going up.
Right.
So, how can people reach out to you? How can they book you? Like,
Yeah.
tell them where they can find you on social. Tell them everything.
Absolutely. So you can go to my website. It's www.drlaurinixon.com. I do have on my website an opportunity for you to go to my speaker. I think I have a page where it just talks about speaking engagements. And if you're interested in having me speak at one of your events, please reach out to me through my website. I've been featured in a couple of different magazines. So I have some of those links if you're interested in seeing what I've talked about. I've been in Cosmo magazine a dozen times. I've
A
been in
dozen.
a
Get
dozen
it? Be clear. A dozen. She said Cosmo like it's not Cosmo.
Tell me
Cosmo
all of
is
it.
it's
Well
nothing.
Health, Shape Magazine. I have spoken for the Black MBA in New York at their event a few years back. So I love to speak at different events and I speak on numerous topics. So please reach out.
Absolutely. As you can see, she is a wealth of knowledge. She has dropped so many gems today on this particular episode. Thank you for your time, Dr. Lori. I look
Thank
forward to
you.
having you back
Can I say
soon.
one really quick,
Oh,
Terrence?
please, please.
I just wanted to say this is an amazing platform that you have, and this is your ministry work. So I hope you realize that, whoever is impacted, whoever is hearing these podcasts that you put out, it is you being used as a vessel to get a message across to someone who needs it. And I hope that you continue on. I know we've talked about you considering entering to this field, but you have such a blessing and a niche for this work. So wherever you decide to do, I know it's going to be blessed. So thank you for having me on.
Of course, of course. And whenever you want to come on, you are always welcome
You.
here at Conversations of the Heart. We appreciate you. We thank you. And all of the information will be right here at the bottom here to, check it out. Is there a book too?
Oh, yeah. Well, I have a children's book called Riley's Worry Away. I almost forgot about that.
Let's
You
go.
can
Let's
find Riley's
go.
Worry Away, a children's book about worry, on Amazon. And it is in, I think, a couple of stores. It was released in 2019. It was in Barnes and Nobles at one point,
Mhm.
Target, but I think where you can find it right now, the distributor has it with Amazon. So check it out.
Wonderful,
It's good for
wonderful. And
children.
and we'll get that link and put it here for you to click that link
Yeah.
and support Dr. Lori in any kind of way, shape,
Thank
or form that you can. If you're in New Jersey or New York, please, please change your life and get Dr. Lori as your therapist. You will not be disappointed.
Thank you.
Dr. Lori, thank you. It was an honor and a pleasure.
Thank
And
you
this
so
has
much,
been
Terrence.
another episode of Conversation of the Heart. We will see you next week. Peace.